is session 8 of our Dark London Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition game. So, when last we left Seth and Adrian, they had managed to wrangle together a meeting of the many and various kindred in the Barking area of the City of London. In the absence of the Camarilla following the Operation Antigen, or the Second Inquisition as some call it, Purge, they had proposed the creation of a new kindred society. Now, between Seth and Adrian, they managed to get everyone to attend and to agree, at least in principle, to it, and they had drafted out a kindred charter, sort of laying down some of the sort of bedrock rules that they thought this new society would need to follow. Things like the establishment of a director, or the appointment of an organisation member to a specified position would have a particular procedure. And there were a number of issues that needed to be resolved before that meeting was finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to play out the end of that meeting. Then we're going to have like a 2-week time jump where the characters have time to do like downtime things and stuff like that. And then we will continue onwards. Okay, so obviously you guys have just wrapped up the big speech that we dealt with last time. All the kindred have been sort of listening. They've in principle agreed to like a sort of a blind ballot, like a vote if you will, to settle these issues that you have with regards to your kindred society. So the first pressing issue that you brought up was who would be the first director of this new kindred society. So how are you guys approaching this? Do you want people to like put forward candidates and everyone votes on them? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think we need to put forward candidates first. Otherwise, it's just going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Are you guys suggesting a candidate?
yeah, I will like suggest Seth. And
Okay, so I can see you're in the document. Put Seth Morgan down as like one of the candidates. We'll like list all the candidates in the document. Then we'll work out who the lucky winner is.
yeah,
Okay.
can I give like a say that I give like a speech or something and roll like a charisma?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Go for it.
Cool. Do I have? What I get for not being a charismatic? Damn.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I give a speech, and like the gist of it is basically, remind you we don't want a ruler. We want someone who can perform a very specific function, and Zev has the qualifications to deal with the Second Inquisition.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But there's a few people nodding along. So Seth's put forward as a candidate. The second person who's put forward as a candidate by Stephen Fields, a member of the Ministry. The second person put forward is Valerie Frost. And he gives quite a stirring speech, basically saying that as you've said, Adrian, you don't really want a prince, you want a director, someone who's going to be able to manage this in a more modern way, almost like a sort of corporate way. They're overseeing things, they're not like a divinely mandated prince. And he points out the fact that Valerie Frost has, whilst working as part of her coterie and in the interests of the Ministry, has managed a number of companies and held various corporate positions. So you don't need to put Stephen Fields down on the list. He's just the one who threw up the recommendation.
Okay. Cool.
Now let me see who else is put through. Okay, the second person put through is. Bum, 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 is Zafia Dawson, the Hakata. She's put forward. There's a fairly sort of impassioned speech given by your young Tremere friend. She basically says that although you need to sort of run this in like a business manner, you also need to be mindful there are a number of threats which cannot strictly be dealt with via temporal means. And Blake Lowe, member of Clan Tremere, gives this speech saying that Zafia is one of the most knowledgeable scholars of the occult and is most well placed to deal with metaphysical threats effectively, and to be able to sort of advise with regards to that.
Does it seem like... Sorry?
No, I was just going to say, her speech doesn't really go down as well, possibly because most people don't understand the metaphysical, or because she's a Hikata, and they, not to beat around the bush, they look like decaying corpses, or like withered corpses. They're not exactly personable, so that speech, although she's still put forward as a candidate, that speech doesn't really go down very well.
Right. And Blake put her forward?
That's correct, Jack.
Okay. Okay. So can I make an insight check?
Yep. What is it you're trying to find out?
I want to put forward another candidate,
Okay.
and I want to figure out which one I should put forward in order to split the people voting for Valerie. So I'm looking for like another business-minded candidate.
Okay. The most obvious business, I'll tell you this because you know this anyway. The most obvious business-minded candidate would be the Ventru Quinn Hopkins. Obviously, he runs a very reputable security firm. He has quite a lot of contacts in the business world. You've seen him at work yourself. He's quite cautious when it comes to like the masquerade. He doesn't go around flashing his powers about. He prefers to do things like more subtly, using the engines of mortal society, if you will.
Okay. In which case, I will put forward Quinn Hopkins.
Okay, make another social
I
roll.
don't. Yeah. Okay. And my goal with this role isn't to. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not trying to make him seem better than Seth. I'm trying to make him appeal to the exact same people as Valerie.
Yeah, you're just trying to like split the
people.
vote between those two. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, again, your speech seems to go down pretty well. A few debates break out amongst the various kindred. You do notice a lot of people who were sort of nodding along when sort of Valerie Frost's like business acumen was being lauded, and they were like, oh yeah, we do need someone who's like a business type. Now, as you've put forward another person who basically has equal sort of business chops to her, like a few people are sort of like, oh yeah, well, you know, he has got the business acumen, and also obviously he's from a Camarilla clan.
And might not be biased to the ministry.
Exactly, yeah. So I think there's a few people who probably were like, oh, we know she's from the ministry, but like she's the best business person. Now, when you've presented them with like a Camarilla acceptable alternative, they're like, oh yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah, and you've sort of see a few old like prejudices against the followers of Set sort of like bubbling up, which isn't surprising with the followers of Set themselves, like the ministry as they're now called. When you originally asked them to come to the meeting, one of the things they said was like, we're worried it might cause problems because people still don't trust the ministry. Okay. Now, Seth, do you want to put up a candidate?
was gonna put up Sophia, but Blake got there first, so I'm just nodding.
Well, I mean, if you wish, you could try and add to, because you've seen that like Blake's like speech about Zafira has gone down like a lead balloon. If you wish, you could make a social roll yourself to see if you can like boost up her position.
Yeah, maybe I'll like, because she's doing the thing. Maybe I'll throw in just a comment because I think probably the number one thing for some people here is going to be her age.
Yeah.
So I would throw in just a throwaway line of it's not about selecting the eldest among us. It is the experience and the vision that we are considering here. So let's see about that. Seth is terrible at this, so this is bound to go well. Okay, 2 successes. No, that was
Okay.
100% of my roll. My dice were successes.
So a few people are sort of nodding in agreement with what you're saying, Seth. Okay, so let's see. So, bring up a notepad window. Okay, so we've got. It quickly becomes obvious as people are sort of like debating this before they place their like blind ballot that the people who support Valerie and Quinn have now been sort of like split down the middle, pretty much. So it could go either way for them. However, you managed to boost up Zafir a bit. Also, you know, there's quite a few people who seem fairly well disposed towards you, Seth, because obviously you're one of the people who like organise this whole thing. So they're like, well, obviously you can organise stuff because
we're here.
Here we all are, you know.
Yeah, and Seth's whole angle to this, because he doesn't have a lot of tools in his box as of yet. Anyway, his whole shtick is, I can be your war leader. Like this, there's no one else who was in the Inquisition, so that's me. And I was already a soldier in a sense. So.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Okay. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've drawn up a quick table with like the rough odds on, and in a minute I'm going to get one of you to roll me a d10, see which way the vote goes. Effectively, if that d10 roll is a 1 to 4, there will be a vote for Seth. If it's 5 to 8, it will be a vote for Zafir. If it's a 9, it will be Valerie Frost. If it's 10, it will be Quinn Hopkins. Now I'm going to say you guys, obviously, you can sort of sway the vote. I'm going to say that you guys have the choice of increasing the number by 1 or lessening it by 1 once the result has come in. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, in which case, which one of you would like to roll the fateful d10?
Do you want to break out the champagne, Adrian, given that you drafted this document we're basing this show on?
No, I'm not making this roll.
Okay.
It's on you.
Okay.
Is that just a single d10?
The classic initiative from other games.
That's it.
Okay, here goes. 8.
Okay, so with an 8, that will be Zafir Dawson. So you can either take 1 off it, which will still be Zafir, or you can add 1 on, which would make it Valerie Frost.
Do we want the ministry or not?
And the reason I'm allowing you guys to sort of modify it up and down is because, as I say, you guys have organised this whole thing. So as everyone's talking, and obviously you guys are talking about like your sort of ideas, your opinions will carry like a fair bit of weight because you've sort of masterminded this whole thing.
Yeah,
so if you're like Zafir, then like a few people who are on the sidelines will be like, yeah, I can see their point. Whereas if you're like, "Oh, I'll give the Ministry a chance," then people will be like, "No, maybe they're right."
Yeah, they've turned a new
I mean,
leaf.
I would think it makes sense for us to pick Zafia because she seems to have less of a political agenda, and it seems like we wouldn't, like personally, Adrian wouldn't want the ministry to get too strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like they already have like the numbers, and will have like a powerful like voting base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess let's. We shall not fix the vote, John.
Okay, splendid. So if you want to like embolden like Zafir on your list, Adrian, or however you choose to mark it. Okay, so the votes are all tallied in. Obviously, it's a blind ballot. You need to drop a piece of paper in, etc. In like a little ballot box. You take them out. They're all counted in front of everyone to make sure it's all nice and fair. Which certainly a few of like the slightly older kindred, although there's no like really ancient kindred here, seem to regard this as quite the novelty. When you're like, oh, we're going to do a blind ballot, we're going to put them all in boxes, and we're going to count them all in front of everyone. It's going to be nice and democratic. They're like, oh, okay.
What's next? Moving pictures?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, Kevin's no about still souls.
Okay, so the votes are tallied, and Zafir is acclaimed the new director of this new kindred society that you're setting up in Barking. Valerie Frost congratulates Zafir. Zafir is pretty much her normal sort of non-excitable, sort of deadpan sort of facial expression. She just nods and softly says, "Thank you." And there's a bit of sort of like a bit of discussion, you know, people like sort of chatting about like, oh, what's it going to mean, you know, having a Carter in charge, and or you know, is like the occult going to become like the mystical going to become like a big thing? And as someone who's like at least a little bit sort of inclined towards the mystical, said, you know that like obviously like most of the kindred here, like I haven't got a fucking clue what they're talking about. They don't know anything about the mystical. They're just like, oh, is it going to be like spells and wizardry and like devilry and whatever?
Harry Potter jokes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which Zafir in a normal manner just sort of like stays above all of that and doesn't respond to any of it. The only very short, because a few people ask her to make a speech, and she gives a very short speech where she basically just says, I will do my best to be as efficient a director and as fair a director as I can.
I'm sitting here thinking, she's probably the only person here that would do that.
She's the only one who doesn't give a shit enough to do that.
Yeah, so I guess now that we have a director, we should try to quickly move through these other issues.
Indeed. So as you're sort of saying, like, you know, what sort of requirements should there be to be allowed to be a member of the organisation? Obviously, there's someone there who says, like, oh, it should only be Camarilla clans. And that's, like, loudly shouted down, obviously, by the ministry. However, Blake Lowe also disagrees with that. Obviously, the Hecata present disagree with that. Because they're sort of saying, like, oh, the Hecata are sort of saying, well, what period of time are we talking about? Because the clan's membership in the Camarilla has, like, changed over the years. So are we talking clans are in the Camarilla in the Dark Ages? Are we talking clans are in the Camarilla in the Modern Age, the Victorian Age? Because obviously the Modern Age Camarilla didn't do so good. That's why we're in this situation. You know, quite a few people make impassioned sort of speeches about, you know, this is supposed to be a fresh start. So they don't think clan should be like a basis for inclusion.
Yeah, so I think the ship has sailed on Camarilla clans. We have the ministry here, and we have the Hecata as our director.
Valerie Frost makes an interesting point, though. She says, however, there are certain clans that are known to belong to alternate sects. I'm sure we all know who are that were directly opposed to the Camarilla, whilst the ministry has always sort of remained neutral in these affairs. There are other clans who very securely nailed their colours to the mast when it came to opposing the Camarilla. Are
Right,
they to be
so-
allowed inclusion if they were to reappear from the east and ask?
So, are you referring? Let's be explicit here. Are you referring to the Zamitzi? Adrian has never had never pronounced their name out loud. So,
She smiles and
And-
says, well, there are certain clans that pledge themselves to the Sabbat. I must admit that the terminology gets confusing when it comes to normal clans that had branch-offs that moved into that sect. But there are certain clans who are known to be primarily affiliated with that sect.
right. That's interesting because I don't think that necessarily means that all members must be part of that sect. No.
At which point Finn pipes up and says, yeah, that's all well and good, but so let's say we assume that it's open, membership's open to any clan. If we get one of these clans from like the Sabbat or whatever saying they want to join, are we going to have some sort of calling off period? Is there going to be any sort of like test of their loyalties? Because what's to stop one of them waltzing in saying, oh yeah, I'll follow your rules and everything, and then just reporting back to their actual sect? We'd have no way of knowing which way their loyalties lie.
So, should we say if we have a reason to doubt their loyalty, perhaps they're a Sombra or a Zimitzi, then we might have to set up some special probation period for them? And granted, this might apply to people who were bitter, whose sires are just infamous or what have you.
At which point, Zafir very quietly says, and it is not your friend, she gestures at Seth, a member of such a clan.
Well,
And I do not say
that's
this
a-
to disparage Seth anyway. I'm quite fond of him. However, if we are going, as the director, if we are going to bring a rule of this nature in, it has to apply to everybody. To be fair.
I'm merely discussing. It's up to you, director.
Zafir says, I believe, certainly for the moment, whilst this society is small, we may need to amend this, should it grow larger, that each case should be judged on an individual basis. Because as you rightly say, Adrian, just because a clan is largely a member of a particular sect does not mean that all members of that clan share the same ideals.
Right. Okay. So the law that you're positing for this is that we judge this on an case by case basis. Would that mean the director decides, or does that mean we vote?
Since I was chosen by vote, and this seems to be the way we are going, I would suggest we have a period where let's say a month for argument's sake, where the person is a probationary member of the sect, and after a month, the assembled existing members then vote on whether to make them a full member of the sect. Obviously, if there was any trouble with them in the intervening time, that would obviously weigh against them in the vote.
So new members are approved by the director for a probation period, and after a month they get voted in.
I would suggest a month, yes. After all, if a person cannot behave themselves for a mere month, then it speaks extremely ill of them.
Okay. they can join the. Okay, so I guess this is a law we vote on.
Indeed.
I mean, Adrian votes yes. This sounds fine.
Yeah, pretty much everyone after a while seems to agree to that. Especially the idea, if anyone breaks like any of the other rules, then there should be some sort of immediate decision made. Seems to be the suggestion. So basically, if you keep your nose clean for a month, and then everyone votes, and it seems pretty much like if you don't get in major trouble in the first month, most people are probably going to vote. Yeah, that's fine.
So our next item is what should our policy on thin bloods be?
At which point Finn pipes up and says, "Well, as far as I see it, what's a person's crime of being a thin blood?"
I kind of nod along. Yeah.
She's like, "Look, their only crime is they were embraced by a kindred who had very weak blood themselves. Now, if we get a thin blood who like actually breaks the rules and like commits a crime, that's different. That can be judged under that. But if we're saying we're going to do something different from the Camarilla, we shouldn't just be persecuting someone based on the strength of the blood any more than we would persecute someone for being a member of a particular clan."
Yes, we've already decided this. I think this is a non-issue to be filed along with whatever clan distinctions or not we shall make, which is none, as far as I understand. So
Zafir nods and says, "I agree. I believe that the issue of strength of blood is not an issue. A thin blood coming to the city would be given a probationary period and then a vote, as would anyone else."
Okay.
again,
excellent.
the main point being information. They need to not fuck up, so just like everyone else. And if I understand their nature correctly, they might be in the most vulnerable position, most readily accidentally prone to do exactly that. So in the interest of us all, I would suggest that we go out of our way to bring them in, so as not to leave them outside.
In a way, says Sophia, to educate them to ensure they are not a risk to themselves or
Yes,
to others.
yes, exactly.
I agree.
Does okay. Does this type perhaps fall into a separate issue of how we should treat fledglings, newly embraced? Will this organization provide like a mentor?
As you say that, Honey Watts, who's a member, the young woman who's a member of Finn's coterie, sort of, she just sort of like goes,
Yeah.
she says, "Yeah, I think that's a very good point. If there are inexperienced kindred, and I'm not saying that ignorance is an excuse for breaking the laws. All I'm saying, and I agree with Mr. Morgan here, all I'm saying is that if someone remains ignorant, they're far more likely to breach the laws and cause problems to themselves and ourselves. Whereas if we assigned fledglings, whatever you want to call them, a mentor, as you were saying, Mr. Resnick, then educating them not only helps them, but it also helps us, because as we saw last time, obviously not every Camarilla member was causing problems with the Second Inquisition, but once that train started rolling, it impacted everyone here and all the people who perished. So educating them, we're also saving ourselves.
That's a good point. I turn to Zafir and might I suggest that we pass a law that the director is responsible for appointing mentors to fledgling kindred.
Zafir sort of pauses for a moment and then says, I agree in principle and I am happy to do so. However, I believe that this should only be done with the approval of said mentor. I would not want to force a fledgling on someone who is not willing.
Yes, I believe.
And obviously, the mentor should be a member in good standing.
Yes, so I believe what this would entail is you would be creating a special position. Like hypothetically, you would be okay. Adrian, I'm going to propose that you take care of this fledgling, and people would vote on that. And if someone had a reason to think I was a bad influence or any reason to oppose that, I'd be voted down.
Well,
It seems like
I believe, Sir Zafir, it's not necessary to vote on who would be a mentor. If I believe what should happen, and this is just a suggestion, it is not an edict of any kind, that I should approach a kindred I believe to be a suitable mentor. Obviously, it would be made known publicly. If that kindred agrees to be a mentor, the fledgling is then assigned to them on the understanding that any crimes committed by the fledgling, a portion of the responsibility would be transferred to the tutor. Hopefully, this would encourage people to keep a close eye on their fledglings.
right. This still seems like, since you're not voting on it, this still seems like essentially another special power we're giving the director. So I guess that's a law that should be voted on.
Okay.
Everyone in favor of the director choosing mentors for those who need them?
Yeah, most people raise their hands.
Great. Bring out the stone tablets.
Right.
I believe our next order of business, says Zafir, is what should our policy be related to the Camarilla, the Sabbat, or the Anarchs, other political entities? I would like to open this up to the floor. Does anyone have any thoughts? At which point the Finn pipes up again and says, well, look, I'm not saying I like the Sabbat. I mean, I was an Anarch back in the day. But all I'm saying is, if we've already said we can't discriminate against individuals for being from clans that belong to certain sects, I think basically if a member of another sect comes into our area, as long as they're willing to follow our laws whilst they are here, then that shouldn't be a problem. Now, obviously, we all know the sort of reputation of the Sabbat, although mercifully most of them seem to have disappeared. But if we all know their reputation, so I suspect troublemakers like that, for argument's sake, would have problems following our sensible laws. Therefore, they would be dealt with as breakers of the law.
Okay. So I guess what you're proposing is they will be subject to our laws while in our domains.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, look, all this sounds grand, but let's face it, this society here, we're not in any position to go to war against another sect, and I'm pretty sure we wouldn't want that anyway, because that's going to bring more heat than any of us can handle. So all I'm saying is we treat it a bit softly, and we say, as long as you follow our rules while you're in our domain, as you put it. That's grand. Do your business. Keep your nose clean. Everyone's happy. If you break the laws, then you get treated like anyone else would get treated if they break the laws.
Right. I when I put this on the agenda, one of the things I was wondering is, should we have a policy of trying to resist their influence? Like, one of the Camarilla slowly began to politically maneuver their way into our.
I suppose that would depend, says Sophia, on whether you believe such influence is a crime.
Yeah. I don't necessarily have strong opinions, but I suspected someone else might.
At which point you get Quinn Hopkins clears his throat loudly and he says, well, look, as far as I'm concerned, as someone who's built up their own base of influence, it's my responsibility as a kindred, as an individual, to control that base of influence and make sure all of my business interests, etc., are working as I see fit. As far as I'm concerned, if someone comes in who is able to outmaneuver me and has otherwise broken no crimes, well, that's not their fault, really. It's my fault for not having a sufficient grasp of my own territory.
Yes, that's a fair point. So it seems like the only issue to vote on here is should they be subject to our laws while in our domains?
Pretty much the vote is unanimously yes, as you call for a vote.
All right. And the next topic, should we allow kindred to freely embrace, or should there be some limits?
At which point Sophia says, well, clearly we cannot allow everyone to freely embrace. There is a delicate ecosystem that exists between the kindred and the kine. If everyone is allowed to embrace as they see fit, and that balance is tipped more towards the kindred side, the competition for feeding, for resources, will become that much greater, and the likelihood of someone being discovered by our mutual enemy becomes that much greater. However, I do not believe we should ban all embraces, since there will no doubt come time where we suffer casualties through whatever means, and we will need to replenish our numbers. But I do believe there needs to be some sort of check in place to make sure we do not reveal ourselves through sheer numbers.
Yes. Now I know this seems very Camarilla-y, but should we propose that people must seek either a vote or the director's permission to embrace?
Zephyr says, I've not embraced many times during my long history, so I would feel uncomfortable passing judgment on other people doing so. I believe that the best thing to do would be for the person who wishes to embrace to lay out their case to the assembled society and to cast a vote on it, in which the same way as we did when electing me as the director. Now, this may need to be amended in the future, but I believe at the moment that is the fairest way of doing it.
So, a member who wants to embrace a model must plead their case to the organization, who will then vote to approve or reject.
At which point Finn says, "Now, we've talked a bit about, what's going to be a crime, what's not going to be a crime. So, like, say someone does commit a crime, like, what are we going to do? Like, how are they going to get punished for it?"
Yes. So, again, it's up to director to propose laws. Should there be separate? Should that be up to the director's discretion? Should there be separate penalties for like lesser crimes versus major crimes?
Well, it seems clear to me, says Sophia, that not all crimes are going to be equal. Someone who makes a minor slip-up which causes us no real problems, whilst they should be reprimanded, it's not going to be the same as, just for an example, as someone who embraces 20 people. At which point Sophia looks towards you, Seth, and says, "What do you think, Mr. Morgan?"
Intent is difficult to gauge. Actions are far easier. So, well, the one thing you learn very quickly in thinking about this sort of thing is you don't put down the death penalty for everything, because that only means that everything is going to escalate to the maximum level because the only punishment is death. So,
okay. At which point you hear a slightly grizzled cough, and a very gaunt vampire wearing a cowboy hat sort of stood with his arms folded at the back of the room with like a strikingly beautiful woman on either side of him, says, "Well, back in the old days, we'd have put a bit of wood through their hearts and we'd have stashed them somewhere for a period of time."
which I had given some thought to, which would require a facility, which would be a risk.
Why don't we put it? Cause I'd say we put it to the director's discretion, and this would give the director the ability to perhaps appoint others to a special role to like adjudicate particular cases if they don't want to handle it themselves for whatever reason.
I agree in principle, says Sophia. I believe, however, that before, should we reach a point where a more final punishment is needed, that should be cast as a vote before the assembled society, because that is not a power that I wish to possess.
Right. So,
And also, I believe that if
a
every member of the society has a say in the final punishment, then it is all done out in the open, and there can be no thought of myself or whatever future director makes this call using that punishment as a threat or to further their own goals.
Right. So I guess we could put two laws to vote on here. One that give the power to to issue punishments. However, capital punishments must be voted on.
Yeah, that's all pretty much agreed on. That's fine. Most kindred seem to like the idea that they'll actually have a say when it comes to the more severe punishments, whereas obviously previously they wouldn't have even had a look in it. It would just be the prince says this, and that's what's going.
Right.
Okay, so we're just going to quickly whip through these last few now. Okay, so we've got, should members of our organisation provide resources to the benefit of the organisation as a whole? Now, there's a bit of a debate about this, because obviously people who've sort of like gained their influence aren't keen on, so like Quinn Hopkins, they're not keen on the idea that suddenly like someone in the society can suddenly go, "Oh, the society needs this and you have to turn it over."
I propose
So-
that whatever form it takes, there is a power or a special role given to someone who can issue calls to action. It makes sense to me that if we have a resource that would benefit the continued survival of us all, the security of our territory,
Indeed.
that we would be able to call on each other to affect that resource to the maximum possible.
Indeed. Zafir says, might I suggest that should an immediate crisis arise, that the society as a whole elect a war leader as such, if you'll forgive the dramatic turn of phrase, and that person have the power to requisition what resources they need to deal with the immediate threat. But once that threat is dealt with, that position is then nullified.
Yes, so the ability to do that is already in the charter, unless you're saying that you want the ability to elect a war leader without a vote.
No, I believe that it should go to a vote.
Okay.
So if we have the special role in the charter, then this would appear to fall into that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes. And please, because I think it needs to be said, don't be precious about it when the call comes. You can always have whatever it is you do later again, or more of it.
Indeed, and as Mr. Morgan is saying, everyone will have an opportunity to vote in the election of this war leader. So if the war leader does come to you and say, in order to deal with whatever the impending crisis is, I need these resources that you have, then that person effectively embodies the will of the society as a whole, or certainly the majority of them. And obviously once the situation has been dealt with, any resources that are still extant and that have not been used will of course be returned to their original owners.
If anyone's wondering, this would be the tax for being a part of this all. It's not a free ride trying to survive. If there's a news story we need to put away, we absolutely need to do that. There's no question. You cannot be sitting on the sidelines in this.
At which point Finn sort of like pipes up and she's like, yeah, I agree with Seth. I mean, look, we all know, the point of, I mean, I know you two organised it, but the point of all of us coming together here is the fact that we all agree that we all need to be sort of pulling in the same direction. Otherwise, it's going to be a whole heap of shit for all of us, and we're all going to be in trouble. So if we get in a situation where we're like, oh, it's about to get real, and decisions need to be made quickly, we all need to get behind whoever we've chosen to deal with that situation, and whatever they need to solve that for the good of us all, we need to make sure they've got it. Most people, a few people are a bit like, but generally, most
I
people
bet they
like,
are. That's why I started talking about this shit, because I can see it coming a mile away. They'll be like, I don't want to.
Yeah, a few people are a bit, but by and large, most people are like, well, yeah, if we've had a chance to like elect the war leader, and we get to that point, then obviously we've agreed that like something needs to be done. So, you know, we're just gonna have to sort of pitch in, and lump like it or lump it, basically.
Right. Okay, so yeah, we don't really need a specific theme for this.
Yep.
Should members of our organization be able to have to provide services to the benefit of the organization?
The general consensus there seems to be that people don't believe they should have to provide services like normally towards the organisation. However, if a specific circumstance arises when like a service is needed, that's pretty much covered by what you've just agreed.
Right.
So people are sort of saying,
Okay.
in the normal course of things, let's all manage our own business. But if like stuff starts to get real and we need to all pitch in, then we'll all have to pitch in.
Okay. So, how should the domains of organization members be respected?
Well, we already have several domains that are known within the borough. I would suggest that if a domain is not currently being held, I would suggest that a person who is capable of holding it register that as their domain. I'm not sure what form this would take. I'm not a great one for modern technology, says Zafir. However, I believe that if a domain is available, someone should be able to claim it.
Okay, so domain should be registered with the organization. Claimed areas to any. Alright, so domains should be registered with the organization, and unclaimed areas are available to any organization member to claim. Provided they could hold on to it, like, I wouldn't want some random like new vampire going in, like, you know, claiming like some really affluent area without showing they have the resources to actually situate themselves there.
That's true, says Zafir. Perhaps when the Kindred registers their domain, they should have to provide some evidence that they are capable of managing said domain.
Does this need to be voted on, or can someone decide it?
I do not believe this is an issue that needs to be voted on, says Zafir.
Okay, to provide a case to the director, can hold on to it.
So obviously,
Okay.
as outlined in the charter, says Zafir, we would have a procedure for dealing with disagreements. So I believe if we had two kindred both trying to claim for the same domain, that would fall under those auspices.
Right, yes. So, in terms of respecting domains, are you able to travel freely through domains of other kindred? Do you need permission to even go there? Or is it just no feeding on someone else's domain?
I believe, says Zafir, that if you are travelling through a domain, even to the extent if you are feeding in that domain, as long as you are not causing problems for the person who owns that domain or claims it, then that should be allowable. I would say obviously the best way to make sure you're not causing any trouble for the domain owner is to check with them first.
Okay, so actions taken. So actions taken in another's domain are acceptable as long as they do not harm the domain holder in any way.
At which point, Caleb Goodman, with the cowboy hat wearing vampire, pipes up and he says, "How does this apply to nomadic kindred like myself?" At which point you see Zafir sort of gives him a bit of a stare, and then she says, "Well, as long as you're not causing any problems, I do not see that it is an issue, since, as we have said, travelling through another's domain is allowable as long as you're not causing their domain harm.
Should that actually raises an interesting point. Perhaps anywhere this like nomadic kindred is staying could count as a haven, and a haven could have special protections.
I believe, Sir Sophia, we may be wise to allocate portions of the borough as specifically free areas where no one is allowed to claim domain. Then those areas can be available for the use of all.
So the director can player areas as free domain. That's sort of covered by the other things, like it'll just be unclaimed territory that you don't approve requests for.
Indeed.
Something.
At which point Sophia says, I would suggest, and this is again simply a suggestion, that Maesbrook, Parslows, Alibon and Heath be allocated as free areas, since they are in the centre of the borough, and as far as I am aware, no one has yet claimed domain in them.
Okay. John, can you write that in the document? Not now, but like just when you...
I can't. I don't have any editing permission for it. Well, let me just request.
I know. I just wanted to. Okay, I think I can do that. Grant your permissions.
No, I've just sent a request apparently.
Well, I'm sure that'll come through one day.
It's fine. I'll write him in the. Zoom chat for now.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to spell all those things wrong.
To be honest, I've still spelled one of them wrong. Parslow should have an S on the end of it. Okay, so while you're writing them in, the next thing to be decided on is should the organisation have unique stances on non-kindred threats, i.e. Operation Antigen, werewolves, etc. Most people seem to think that like a blanket sort of stance isn't particularly needed, because they're like, oh well, if Operation Antigen's like knocking on a door, then presumably we'll elect a war leader, and they'll be like, right, this is how we're going to deal with it.
So we don't need any like laws like, hey, don't antagonize werewolves or whatever, because it's bad for us. Or
the general consensus seems to be that if someone does that, and the werewolves start causing problems for other kindred, then that will effectively be like breaking like other laws because you've caused that problem. So
right.
That'll be sort of covered by the existing stuff.
Right. All right.
You notice when most people are sort of saying like, oh, I'm not entirely sure. We need like a specific rule for like werewolves. You know, it'll be covered by other stuff. You notice that like Adrian Lowe's like stood at the back with his large dog next to him. He has like his hand over his mouth and he's like,
I don't want to know that story.
You seem to think he's amused by the fact that, because most kindred are like werewolves, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't really need rules to cover them, and he's like,
Mm-hmm. And Adrian knows werewolves are a thing.
yeah.
He doesn't quite get the power differential between a kindred and a werewolf.
You may draw from the reaction of Adrian Lowe that perhaps if he's not had some experience with werewolves directly, maybe he knows something about them. So like when other people who sort of obviously know nothing about them are like, no, we don't need to worry about that. He's like,
Okay, I'll might have to ask him later. He seemed to just be finding this amusing, right? He's not going like, "Oh God, this
Yeah,
is a horrible
he's not like,
idea."
oh my god, we need to deal with the werewolf menace. He just sort of stood there when people are like, oh, we don't need Russell Wells. He's like, all right, if that's what you think. All right, for your funeral. But yeah, he seems like sort of like slightly amused by it rather than sort of like, oh my god, we need rules for werewolves.
So, yeah. So, and I guess we think this apply to werewolves, mages. Adrian considers listing off
Most people
things
when you
that he's
mention
not.
mages, they're like, what?
I'm not sure if Adrian should even know
At
about
which
that.
point, as you say that, you notice it's not just Adrian laughing now. Like Blake, I was like,
I'm sure we'll cross that bridge when if we get to it. Unless anyone who has experience with any of the entities mentioned would like to speak up and maybe suggest a prudent law.
okay. At which point, Adrian Lowe does step forward, and he says, "Look, I'm not going to say that I've got loads of experience with them, but I know a little bit about them. I'm fine with the whole idea of like, if it becomes a thing that we elect a war leader. Now, if it does become a thing, and I don't think it's likely, but if it does become a thing, I'm happy to make whatever information, little as it is, that I've got available to whoever the society elects as the war leader, and happy to help in any way. But yeah, I'm fine with the idea that, if it becomes a clear and present issue, we elect someone to like deal with that, and we all like throw a weight in behind them."
All right. I kind of wait to see if Blake wants to talk about like mages.
But Blake doesn't.
If he doesn't, I don't really care. Okay. What about mortals? You're like, mortals?
Oh my
They
god, the most
exist?
dangerous of all. Those mythical beasts from which we came.
Okay. So, should we have a prohibition on diablerie?
The general consensus is yes, we should very much have a prohibition on dabblery.
Damn it. I mean,
And
yeah,
most people are saying like, oh look, if you kill another kindred, that's obviously like breaking the laws of this society. 'Cause you can't just go around offing people. But they say a lot of people are sort of pushing for the fact that like this is one of the rare circumstances where it should be like, if you're caught, like, because a lot of people who have perhaps heard rumours of diablerie and what it's supposed to do are sort of saying, oh, you're not just killing someone, you're like destroying their soul, their like essence. So a lot of people are saying this is one of the circumstances where like you should jump straight to like voting on like the final punishment for committing that crime.
so like it's like some people are suggesting it's just okay to kill Diablerus.
Yeah, they're pretty much saying that if someone's found guilty of diablerie, the vote should be held like straight away to determine whether they're given the final punishment.
Okay, and do we think this should apply to like kindred who are not part of the organization and are antagonistic?
At which point Zafir says, yes, I believe it should, because whilst, from what I know, diablerie is often a shortcut to power, it can have
Right.
extremely dangerous effects on the psychology of the person who commits it. And I don't believe we want to open ourselves up to that trouble.
Okay. If one is found guilty of robbery, then will be held. So if one is found guilty for bribery, then an immediate vote will be held for their execution.
Yeah, everyone seems
And
fine with that.
And the last one we've sort of addressed right off the bat. Should the organization treat the clans differently?
The general consensus
Is
is
there
no.
is there any reason we should treat them like positively differently? Like people clans that have different abilities, or clans that might have different requirements.
The general consensus is that people should be treated based on their sort of individual achievements and actions rather than their membership in a clan. Although
Right.
it is sort of suggested that obviously some clans, like Clan Nosferatu, etc., have obvious problems that make it more difficult for them to interact with the mortal world. So they're saying like, oh, some recognition should be given from that. Like they're basically saying that like, oh, if there's a Nosferatu whose obfuscate slips and they're spotted briefly, that shouldn't be a case if you break the masquerade, do you like final death? But they're also saying that like they're saying we've pretty much already covered this. You know, like breakings of the law are going to be judged on a case by case basis. So.
Yeah. What about also like the Nagarashi here, who eat human, who like eat flesh?
Most of the kindred are like Naga what?
You know, forget I said anything. But I was wondering more like, should we make it a law that we should try to make our kindred as inclusive, our society as inclusive to kindred with unique bloodline curses, or just
The general feeling seems to be that if you have a sort of unique bloodline curse or sort of problem, that it's your responsibility to manage that, and that as long as
okay?
you're not causing like an issue via that, then that's fine. If you do like break any laws or whatever as a result of that, then obviously that should be judged by the previous sort of edicts of the Kindred Charter.
All right.
Okay, so I think we're all sorted.
I mean, unless anyone here has any pressing concerns.
No, everyone seems fine. You know, there's a bit of murmuring going on as people are discussing what's been decided and what's happened, but by and large, everyone seems to be okay with it at the moment.
Okay.
So with that sorted, obviously, everyone starts to disperse and sort of go their own way. Are there any kindred that you guys want to speak to, sort of as the meeting's winding to a close?
Zeph, why don't you?
Well, I was going to say, I need to quickly nip and use the facility, so have a think about what you want to say and who you want to speak to, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes and we'll crack on with that.
I'll just get something to eat then.
Yep. So Ambrose has gone off to get something to eat,
No worries.
which I did a supply run as well. Prop me up.
I've mocked the Kindred free action zone on the map.
Free action zone.
It was the best name I
Faz.
could come up with on the spur of the moment.
Yeah. All right, mate. Let's head up to the Faz.
Just popping down the Faz, mate. See how long it is before some of the younger Kindred start calling it that.
I was driving on the Faz lane.
Just going down the K Faz, man.
Rock the Fazbar.
Nice. Okay, so while we're waiting for Ambrose, is there any Kindred that Seth wanted to talk to at the end of the meeting?
I think Ambrose probably had a suggestion for a particular one. Maybe not at the meeting so much. Like there's something to be talked about with Zofia, but I think that can wait until not everyone is listening in. So
Yeah, well, it's assumed any of these conversations would be you'd sort of like catch them on their own, like, you know, when most of the people have left or whatever, or sort of on their way out.
yeah, I guess with Zofia at least.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So Zofia is one of the last to leave. Perhaps she's thinking about her increased responsibilities now that she's the director of this newer Kindred Society. You see she sort of sat there, you know, sort of like obviously contemplating various bits and pieces. You approach her, what do you say?
So I don't know if that's what you wanted at all. But unlucky, it wasn't me who threw you under the bus. I just helped. So to speak. Now, listen, there is probably no one else in the room, or was in the room, who could credibly deal with certain threats, as we discussed. So,
Indeed.
if you need someone to deal with that sort of thing, well, I suppose you know where I sleep.
She says, well, I'm glad that you approached me with this because myself and Miss Lowe were actually planning to extend you an invitation to join our coterie. We've been discussing it for some time, and the purpose of our coterie, or as Blake likes to call it, the Enlightened Coven, which seems a slightly frivolous name to me, but it's of no matter. The purpose of our coterie is to, precisely as you were saying, to explore the metaphysical, the occult, those to find out about those threats that may be less perceptible to the everyday run-of-the-mill kindred, and because we believe that if we know about them in advance, we can put preventative measures in place beforehand, and hopefully we'll be in a better position to deal with them when and if they become issues. Currently there are only 3 members of the coterie. There is myself, Miss Lowe, and her grandfather, Adrian Lowe.
Right.
Obviously, Adrian is far from being wise and learned in the ways of the occult, but he does have a great deal of practical knowledge and has encountered a great deal in his time sort of moving through the wilderness. And also he does provide a certain amount of physical aptitude that may otherwise be lacking from our coven. We've recently extended an invitation to Miss Matthews, another member of Clan Gangrel. I believe she's known to you, or certainly your companion Adrian is, because when we spoke to her, she mentioned him.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she has her haven in the Beckton sewer works down in the southwest.
Yeah. That one needs steering.
Indeed, it is. It is my hope, since I was the one who suggested that we extend an invitation to her, that if you'll forgive me for saying this, she's obviously a very young kindred, but the Clan Gangrel do have certain talents when it comes to keeping an eye on the outreaches of the urban environment, so to speak. And it's also my hope that by placing her under the tutelage of Adrian, her joie de vivre can be channeled into more productive activities.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I don't think there's a reason specifically to say no to any of this. Now, I don't know how it used to work, because I was one of those unfortunates, like I said, who were, well, not this, and then I was made this in an effort to shield the one who made me.
Yes.
So I didn't really get the memo, so to speak, on how this part of this puzzle works. Is this an exclusive club? Do I need to not talk to Adrian if he doesn't have the card?
You almost see her actually like smirk a little bit, which looks quite unnerving on her sort of skull-like face. But she says, no, nothing like that. If you are agreeing to join the Coven, obviously I will make the rest of the members aware that you've accepted our invitation. Most of the time we conduct our own investigations, we go about our own business. Occasionally we meet up to discuss anything that we believe may be a problem. If one of us has difficulties with a particular metaphysical matter, we offer advice and help if we can to our other members. That has been the extent of it thus far. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Miss Lowe is currently engaged in a project to map out lines of metaphysical power in the
Yes, I'm aware.
Good. It is her belief that where these lines intersect has a direct correlation with the potential for otherworldly threats. Obviously, we haven't done enough of an investigation to fully establish that, but it's worth looking into. So that is her project that she's looking into at the minute. Occasionally she has asked my opinion or consulted with me on matters when she's become a little stuck or needs a fresh perspective, and I've endeavoured to help as much as I can. And likewise, were you to come to any of the members with a project that you were looking into, like I say, our specialisation is the metaphysical, but if you were to approach us and ask for assistance, guidance, advice, etc., then we would do our utmost to provide it.
Yeah, that seems sensible, and yeah, it wouldn't hurt to learn more about this. One
Indeed.
more thing to keep track of. All right, is there a pen? Do you sign in blood? There's the book with the sigil on the cover.
She smirks a little and says, no, nothing like that. As I've said, I will simply let the other members know that you've accepted our invitation.
Right.
We are not some secret cabal conducting shadowy ceremonies in around dimly lit altars. We are more like an academic circle who we each have our individual projects. We will not dictate to you what you should study or what you must study. It is down to yourself to pursue what you see fit. We are almost like I suppose an occult support network.
All right.
I'm just going to switch my light on.
Yep.
Is there anything else, Mr. Morgan?
Well, I think most of this will reveal itself in time. We may have been here tonight, we may have nodded, we may have debated and all that, but the blood does things, and I expect that there will be rough stretches in the road
Indeed.
going forward.
I predict there'll be many tests of this new society must face, particularly in the first nights. However, such is always the way, and if this society is to prove itself worthy of being long-lasting, then it must weather those particular storms. But I believe at the very least, with the guidance of yourself and Mr. Resnick, we've at least made a good start.
That we have, and if it's up to me, I will drag this society kicking and screaming into the night.
Indeed. I
I
agree.
will find you later.
Be well.
Yep.
And welcome to the Coven.
He can't. He just tosses up a hand and just. He doesn't. He's been joking with Sophia, I guess, because she kind of doesn't seem like the person that would go for jokes, and for some reason that's more acceptable to Seth than to joke with. So he just tosses up a hand and praise Satan, and heads off to find Adrian.
Okay, not a problem. So, Adrian, Seth's been talking to Zafir. Is there anyone else that you particularly wanted to talk to?
Yeah, there was a few. Is it alright if it's a few or?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so yeah, oh god, a lot of these people look really interesting. I guess first the cowboy, and that is two. He has two Nagaraja.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't resist that cowboy hat, can you?
Huh.
It's that call of the wild.
Like, look, we just. I have to tell him that this is a town that abides by laws. We can't handle his type. He better just mosey on through.
You better saddle up.
We don't want
harder.
his trouble here.
Yeah.
Also, does that hat take 10 gallons?
Oh, easy. 10 gallons of blood. Okay, so as Caleb Goodman, and I'll flash up the. There you go. You should be able to see the pictures of him and the two women who are with him.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay. So they kind of wear the vampire on their sleeve.
Yeah,
as
pretty
it were.
much. Yeah, they're not exactly discreet. Let's put it that
Their
way.
face sleeve in this instance.
Yeah, so you managed to catch up with the three of them. They're obviously together as a group. You catch up with them as they're sort of preparing to leave. What do you say?
All right. Yeah, I say. Greetings, Adrian. I don't believe we've met properly.
The withered husk of the kindred wearing the 10-gallon hat turns around and he says, "Goodman, Caleb Goodman."
Let's not tell him. This is. Yeah. So you're a nomadic kindred.
Yeah, that's right. Myself and the Crow sisters here.
Yeah. What brings you to this part? To these parts?
I'm a hunter.
What are you hunting?
At which point you see he glances at the two women who are with him, and you can see that like a look passes between the three of them. You're not sure what it is, but they're quite clearly all three of them like very tuned into each other. And he says,
And
I'm not sure you'd understand."
can I? Okay, this is gonna be weird, but can I make an insight roll to try to like empathize with the three of them? And if I succeed, I'm gonna be like, try me. He might be surprised.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, go for it. I love it. And like you said, the effect you're going for is you're trying to basically get them to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. If that's not enough, I'm willing to roll willpower on this.
That's fine. You're just trying to get them to. That'll do. You're just trying to get them to tell you a bit more. It's
Okay.
that world chattering. At which point, Caleb Goodman sort of like leans in a bit close to his face, is like yay far away from you, and he says, "Have you ever seen that 80s film, Ghostbusters 2?
You. I look up at him like, who hasn't?
He says, "Well, you know that bit where there's the rivers of slime flowing under the city, and that's what causes all the ghosts in the film."
Yes.
"Well, it's fuck all like that." And he smiles.
Hmm.
And then he says, "I hunt ghosts, Mr. Resnick."
Oh. Anyone? Are you hunting a ghost in particular?
"Look, I don't want to insult you, but do you have a background in the metaphysical? Again, I don't want to insult you, but I'm guessing not."
No, but I've seen a ghost. I've encountered one.
At which point he sort of stares at you as though he's trying to gauge whether you're telling the truth. Then he nods and he says, "Well, myself and the Crow sisters, we're drawn to areas where such things congregate in our travels, and we've been drawn here."
Does that mean something's gonna happen?
Going to happen, is happening, has happened, could be any or all of the above. But I never know until I get where I'm going. And I've only been here for a few days. I've not yet had sufficient time to investigate. The Crow sisters and the two women like nod in unison. They've got certain talents for sensing these things. They sense them, I hunt them.
Hey.
At which point he takes out like a metal box from like the inside of his duster jacket. He takes out like a big fat old cigar, and he like holds the box out towards you. There's like a load of like those old like sort of Winston Churchill style cigars, like the big fat ones in there, and he's like, "Smoke."
Yeah, sure. I take one
He pulls out like
again just to look cool.
He pulls out like one of those gold sort of like cigar clippers. And he like clips the end off his own, and yours passes you one. Lights it up with a Zippo lighter, lights yours as well, and stands there like. You notice as he actually breathes out the smoke, there's like previously you'd not noticed, but there's obviously like numerous like little tears in like the sort of gaunt skin on his face, and when he actually breathes out the smoke, like odd wisps sort of like leak out through the like cracks in his face.
Oh, that's so cool.
He
Yeah,
says,
so
"You think that's cool? Watch this. You see that pot plant over there?" And he points at just like, because obviously you're in this church that you've rented.
yeah,
There's like a little sort of like yucca like pot plant in the corner. He says, "Watch what happens when I go and stand next to it. And he walks over and stands next to it. And over the course of the next few minutes, this plant just sort of like wilts and sort of like decays and collapses.
That's fucked up. Seems like death follows you everywhere you go.
He looks at you and he says, "Hey, I don't carry these 6-shooters for nothing, you know." And he like pats like 2 bulges on his like coat.
Gunman. I favour the fist myself, but do they help against ghosts?
Only if they've manifested themselves, and then only temporarily. At which point he pulls out like a shining, what looks very, very new, like 6-shooter, looks very well maintained, and he says, "These babies, however, these will put the hurting on them." And then he back into the holster.
So you said that you're attracted to these metaphysical ghosts. Does that mean you're drawn to ley lines of power, places of power?
I don't know anything about ley lines. Heard of them. Don't know much about them. I know there's certain places where... How to explain this? Right, the way it works, very roughly, is like this. You see, there's a wall between our world and the world of ghosts, right? And in some and basically you've got to imagine like the ghosts are always on the other side with like a hydraulic drill, and they're always drilling at that wall so they can get through it into our world. And most of the time the wall's not having any of it. It doesn't get damaged. In some places they find a place where there's already a little bit of a crack, and they can make that crack bigger and get through, and that's where I come in.
Okay. Adrian's trying to not let him know that he thinks he's the coolest person ever.
All right, okay, maybe a social roll to see if you manage to hide your obvious awe at this cowboy vampire. Possibly some sort of subterfuge style roll.
Let's say composure, resolve.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so he looks at you for a few moments. You see like a vague hint of a smile on his face, and he's like, "Here, kid," and he takes out his 6-shooter, and he does that bit where you like flick it over to the side, and like the ammunition chamber comes out, and he takes out what looks to be like a single sort of like silver-coloured bullet from the chamber. He like puts the gun back away, and he holds the bullet out to you, and he's like, "There you go."
Yeah. I have to make another composure roll to not go, "Wow, golly, gee whiz, mister."
That's fine. I've just
yeah, I take it. I'm like,
he's like,
"Thank you."
Hold it up to your ear. And as you do, you can hear what sounds like a very faint screaming coming from the bullet.
Is there like a soul bound to this?
Sort of.
Is that like Diablerie, but for bullets?
No vampires were harmed in the production of these bullets.
Yeah, I know. It's what it says in very fine print. Yeah.
It's forgive the spelling. It's difficult to carve that small.
Still very impressive.
He says, "Best way to fight a spirit with a spirit. If one of them manifests and, like you say, you get your fists out and you beat it in a fight, all that's going to happen is it's going to dematerialize, but it's not going to be dead. Then all it's got to do is find another crack and force its way back over again."
Adrian feels like he should be realizing something. He's like, "Hey, have you ever encountered like kind of owl ghost things that can possess owl kinds of bodies?"
The Strix, yeah, sure.
Oh, Oh yeah. That's one of the two occasions I've encountered a ghost of some sort. Yeah, there's like this place that has a bunch of them. I think.
They're not strictly speaking ghosts.
What are they?
It gets kind of difficult to explain, but well, you know how this isn't an exact way of explaining it, but you know how like this kindred, right? And we can make ghouls, and ghouls are a bit like vampires, but they're not vampires. Well,
Yeah.
Strix are a bit like ghosts, but they're not exactly ghosts. They're a bit like kindred, but they're not exactly kindred. I'd be lying if I said I knew exactly what they were, but they do seem to have some sort of tie to the kindred. I've only ever encountered them a couple of times. The ones I encountered, their entire aim seemed to be to take possession of a body. From what I gather, they can't experience. They're almost like hedonists. They don't experience much while they're in their spirit forms. So their main aim seems to be to basically take a body out for a joyride, which never ends well for the body. And for some reason,
Must have been.
they seem to find it easier to possess kindred than mortals. I don't know why.
Yeah, they were at the Rainham Marsh Nature Reserve. Yeah, if you ever want to round a posse and go investigate there, I'm sure Seth and I would be keen.
He's like, a posse, what do you think this is? Fistful of dollars?
Yeah, have you seen that movie?
Of course I have, it's a fucking classic. He says, look, normally, I'll give you a bit of advice, and it's advice I follow. I normally leave the Strix alone. Think about most spirits, right? Is they're wrapped up in their own affairs. You take down one spirit, the rest of the spirits couldn't give a shit. The Strix, though, they flock in large numbers. You take down one of them, you'll have the rest of them to deal with. But if you stay out of their way, normally they stick to their own habitats. So I'd advise giving this reserve a wide berth if I were you. Unless you've got enough firepower and gumption to take them all down. And I don't think you've got the stones.
Hey, I've got plenty of gumption. Just probably not a lot of firepower. Yet.
Well, like I say, they're enough like spirits that normal guns ain't going to do much against them. Plus,
Interesting.
They're pretty good at hiding themselves. Otherwise, I imagine this Operation Antigen of yours would have dealt with them. Like spirits, if they don't want to be seen, normal people won't be seeing them.
Huh, interesting.
At which point, one of the young women who he identifies as Angelique says, "Caleb, myself and Selena are getting hungry. We're going to have to go soon." He's like, "Yeah, okay. Is there anything else you want, kid?"
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
See you around, Goodman.
He like tilts his hat forward a bit, and he says, "Well, look, we've got a van outside in the parking lot. So if you need us, just find the van. We're normally there."
Okay. I'll look for a van.
Yeah, you go outside and there's basically like a beat up old like camper van outside.
Okay.
And you see the three of them sort of start
looking at the yeah, looking at the van, does it look like beat up in the sense that I think that he might have been using this like van for like decades or like years and has therefore been in like London for a while?
It certainly looks quite old, yeah.
Okay. Okay, interesting. That conversation took a while, but I guess I'll talk to Valerie if she's around.
Valerie, okay, no problems. Let me just close these windows down. Okay, yeah, you find Valerie Frost. She's with the other members of the ministry.
Ah, hello.
Oh, hi.
It was rather productive. I think that was rather productive for a first meeting, don't you think?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed to miss out on the top spot, but those are the breaks, I suppose.
Yes, I was a bit yes, well, I was a bit disappointed Seth didn't get in, but I think Zephyr probably, if I'm being honest, is probably the only kindred who would actually give everyone a fair shot.
She says, "Well, look, I'll admit to you, the main reason I sort of had Stephen put me forward is I wanted to make sure that the ministry weren't going to be discriminated against, and since that seems not to be the case, I'm happy. I mean, good luck to Sophia. I mean, no hard
Yeah.
feelings. I mean, I'm free to get on with my own stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny that someone even mentioned treating non-Camarilla clans differently after we just elected a Hikata. Most amusing, really.
Well, as I said to you and your friend when you proposed this meeting, you're just gonna have to accept the fact that like most kindred who've been sort of like trained by their sire, they have their sire's views drilled into them, and their sire had their sire's views drilled into them. And if you've had like 1,800 years of people saying this clan's bad, this clan's good, it's kind of difficult not to go with the flow.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Actually, if I'm being honest, I probably would have done the same had my sire been given me an incomplete view, and I didn't even realize that the ministry were the same line as the followers of Set. It's actually kind of fortunate that that occurred. I'd hate for old pointless prejudices cloud my interactions.
Well, the thing about the ministry, as we've rebranded ourselves, is we seem, certainly back in the day, we were one of the few clans who like tried to move with the times and tried to modernize ourselves. So, okay, yeah, back in the day, we were all like mystics and religious wise people and stuff like that, and we've still got a few people like that in the ministry. I'm sure you've realised that D'Angelo's like one of the more religious bents, but by and large, we've like moved with the times. I mean, religion's not really such a thing now, and our credo is to try and explore who we are to make ourselves better. So in doing that, we have to move with the times and try out different things. Otherwise, we're just going to be stuck in a rut. We're never going to improve ourselves. So
Yeah,
that's why we were all up for this idea of a new society, because it's the first time in, well, as long as we can remember, that anyone outside the ministry has put forward the idea that maybe there's a better way of doing things. So I mean, kudos to you, really.
Well, thanks. Well, it just seemed to make logical sense for us to band together and not be a part of some, like, I don't know, whatever the Camarilla was. People have very mixed feelings on it, from what I can tell.
As we told you before, when we in our first meeting at the Enigma, the ministry approached the Camarilla and said, "Oh, look, we think things are going to go a bit badly. We're here to help." And at first they sort of welcomed us in, but as soon as stuff did start going wrong, even though we'd warned them that things were going to start going wrong, they immediately looked for a scapegoat, someone they could pin the blame on, rather than going, "Oh yeah, our society's not really moved with the times. Maybe it's our fault." But of course they weren't going to blame themselves, so they were like immediately, "Oh, it must be this new clan that's come in, this ministry," and they just threw us straight out again. And we were like, "Well, we've tried our best. They're not going to accept us," so we just sort of looked after our own and did our own thing.
Yes, that does seem quite prudent. So what are you, now that you all have a secured position in this organization, what's next for the ministry?
Well, nothing particularly secretive. We've established the mortal wing of our coterie. well, the organisational name being the Church of the Midnight Sun. We've established the sort of mortal business side of that as a charitable organisation. We've filed all the relevant paperwork, etc. Our plan is to expand the mortal wing of the church. Obviously, hopefully that will bring in funds that we can use. Now, obviously not just for our own good, because we believe that if we're in a domain, you know, like a rising tide lifts all boats, so to speak. And it's our belief that, obviously, let's not beat around the bush. I know a lot of kindred are sort of leery of mortals and sort of look down on them, but let's face it, we're all mortals once. And if we want to make sure, like I say, our philosophy is one of understanding ourselves so that we can excel and we can become more than we are now. If we're going to have more members of the ministry in the future who are capable of doing that, we need to start sowing the seeds early. We need to start finding mortals who want to better themselves. And sort of, it's a bit like a farmer. You know, when a farmer wants to plant his crops, he first of all has to like fertilize the ground, he has to prepare it, he has to get it ready before he even starts planting any seeds. That's what we're going to try and do. We want to start preparing the way, so if at some point in the future we can embrace more members into the ministry, we'll already have candidates who are prepared and are willing and motivated to improve themselves as mortals, so they can carry that forward to when they become kindred.
That seems very, very logical and efficient.
Well, look,
Yeah.
as I say, the ministry, we've had to survive on our own. We've not had the backing of a giant sect to help us before, so we've had to learn how to stand on our own 2 feet and sort of go in on our own, as it were. So we're used to having to sort of start from square one and build ourselves up. So it doesn't seem like an unusual thing for us.
Yeah, I can respect that. Yeah, so I guess now that we're all, I guess, brethren, co-worker, I don't know the term. Camaraderies.
She lays a hand gently on yours and says, let's just say we're friends.
That's probably the best word. Yeah, and in the interest of friendship, if you all ever require any assistance from me, feel free to call.
Oh, thank you very much. We will do.
Excellent. Now I'll leave you to the rest of the night. Have a good night. And it seems like your coterie is going to be quite busy in the foreseeable future.
Indeed, we've got a number of sort of interests we're looking into. I'm sure we'll find things to keep us busy. But have a good evening. And they sort of head off.
And lastly, and since that this doesn't need to be fully role played out, but if Eleanor's around, I'll like say hi, and if she wants to, like, we can, I don't know, go hunt for food together.
Yeah, that's fine.
Whatever it is kindred do.
Eleanor is about, and as you're talking to her, she says that she tells you in the course of your conversation, and you do go out and hunt together, and she tells you during the course of like your sort of evening that she's been offered membership in a coterie that Zafir and Blake Lowe belong to, and that she's agreed to join up with them. She says they've obviously got Adrian Lowe as an older member of her clan, so she's hoping to like learn a little bit from him.
Oh yeah. I express approval of that.
She said she was a little bit surprised by the invitation because from what she's heard from Blake, they're sort of like basically like a book club. The way she describes it, she says like a book club for wizards. And then she laughs and she says, I understand why they want Adrian, because obviously he's like Blake's grandfather, and obviously he's like a powerful gangrel, so it never hurts to have one of them in their corner. But I'm not really sure why they want me, to be honest. But hey, you know, if I get to learn a few new tricks from Adrian, I'm not going to complain. They've not really asked me to do anything. They've just said they sort of support each other when they're like trying to do projects and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, well, they can obviously like sense some usefulness in you, and I've seen that firsthand that you're handy in a fight.
She says, yeah, I suppose they might have just taken me on as extra muscle, but like I say, you know, if I get to learn something new out of it, then why not? It's not like they're asking anything of me. She says, oh, and obviously, like, you've gone away from the meeting. This is like while you're sort of out hunting and you're chatting on your way back and whatever over the course of the evening. She says, oh yeah, by the way, I've heard they're I accepted a few days ago. Says, I've heard that they're planning on extending an invite to your friend Seth. Is it?
Oh yes,
To join the coterie as well. Apparently Zephyr's quite keen on him, from what I understand.
oh, that sounds neat. I'm sure Seth would be keen for that. I mean, a book club for wizards sounds more like his thing.
She says, "Yeah, do us a favour. Don't tell him I told you that." She says, "But to be honest, I'm not into any of this Harry Potter bullshit myself. So
Yeah, I care too much about trans rights to care about Harry Potter anymore. Wait, no, this is the past. She hasn't done that.
yeah,
Those incoherent Twitter
He
rants
hasn't
yet.
decloaked yet.
yeah."
Yeah.
She says, "Look, I don't know anything about magic or the occult or anything like that, but like I say, it's not like they're asking anything of me, so why not?" I'm surprised. I didn't think your man was into any of that, though. So, but everyone's got a hobby, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it might. Yeah, I guess it seems like it's in his wheelhouse at least.
I like to imagine this conversation between you and Eleanor occurs like while you're fighting / feeding on someone. So it's like sort of parrying a couple of like blows and like exchanging a sentence or two, and then like, oh yeah, and I'm surprised that like, I would have thought your guy was into that.
I also like fleeing the police, running on buildings, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so sort of like you, she like jumps a gap between a building, then like you land next to her, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm sure it'll all work out though. Yeah, and then you both like running across the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Okay, so if you've all spoken to the people you want to, is there anyone else you want to speak to, or you're both happy?
Yeah, not at the moment.
Okay, splendid.
I want to get to know every individual on a personal level.
I mean, if you want to go through the roster, I'm here for it.
Let's start with the Shadow Owls.
Okay, so a couple of nights pass. It is now the 15th of March, and shall we say, a newspaper is published. It's the Barking and District Herald, which I don't seem to be able to show you guys for some reason. I'm not sure why. Let me just see if I'm on the right screen. No, I'm not. That'll be why I can't show it to you. There we go.
Is it the one from... Oh, something popped up now. The fire claims.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
a couple of nights after the meeting, the Barking District Herald runs with the story. Since it's Sunday, March the 15th, fire claims life in Chadwell. 2 nights ago, emergency services were summoned to a raging property fire in the affluent suburb of Chadwell Heath. By the time the firefighters arrived, the blaze had already engulfed the property at 3 Cromer Road and was raging out of control. Whilst fire services were struggling to prevent the blaze consuming adjoining properties, an elderly man was seen re-entering the property. The body of the man, one Simon Simmons, a domestic servant, was discovered once the fire had been brought under control. Of the owner of the property, a Mr. Harold Underwood, there was no sign. Police are seeking to contact him. One odd thing was that a complete skeleton, obviously many years old, was discovered in the ruins of the property. Crime scene investigators are currently looking into the matter. And you'll both be aware of that.
Huh.
News.
Okay. So, is Harold Underwood dead?
Well, you know that the address given, 3 Cromer Road, is the building that you went to where you met Harold Underwood.
So, complete skeleton, like a skeleton that was many years old.
Yep.
So, okay. What does it mean in the ruins of the property?
So basically, when the fire department had put out the fire, when they sort of went to explore like the burnt out ruins of what remains of the building, they found the body of like the butler in there, and they also found like a really old ass skeleton in the ruins. And just in case you're not sure where that is, that's where 3 Cromer Road is located, where you went to previously.
Okay.
You should also be able to see, I've marked the, as I was saying to Johannes, I've marked the Kindred Free Action Zone on the map. There's like a red outline around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could hear the conversation. So it's the Faz.
Indeed, the KFAS.
K-Faz. Gotta go K-Faz. So is it based on how, like, I always forget, but based on how, like, vampires die in the setting, is it conceivable that the really old body skeleton was Underwood's?
If he was of that age, yes, because if he'd have died, his body would have like aged to its appropriate age. But obviously, you didn't know exactly how old Underwood was.
Yeah. That being said, though, it of course we don't have all the details, like we don't have the autopsy or whatever, but he wouldn't need to be like super ancient either.
No.
But anyway, yeah, so
It's certainly
someone
possible.
of advanced age, let's say, died there. Probably. Or if he faked his death, but he doesn't really seem like the kind to do that.
So, looking at the Kindred Charter. So, is it if someone murdered him, is that technically a crime?
I suppose, yes.
Technically, it is, but also, since it was, according to the paper, it was 2 nights before the story was reported, that would be when you were having your meeting. So, depending on when it was, if it was a crime, depending on when it was committed, it might have been before you established your charter.
Okay. Interesting. And was Underwood's child there? Childer?
Yeah, she was at the meeting.
And the butler was an elderly man?
Yeah. He was the man who brought
Okay.
in the blood when you met Underwood.
Is it conceivable that they murdered this person then went to the meeting?
It seems a little.
Whoever it was.
It seems a little unlikely if it was like, if you assume that it was like Eva Leonard, because obviously she's a kindred, and like your meeting took place fairly early on in the evening, so obviously she couldn't have like gone out in the day, burnt his house down, and then toddled along to the meeting. And given the fact that the 3 Cromer Road is quite a fair distance away from where the meeting was held, so it's, unless some like weird power or ability was used that you're not aware of, it looks very unlikely that she could have like quickly like ran up there, burnt all the house down, made sure everyone was dead, killed Underwood, and then ran back and got to the meeting in time.
Huh. Interesting. I put on my deerstalker hat and get out my pipe and begin to ponder. I cannot play a character that doesn't want to solve crimes.
That's absolutely fine.
It's impossible.
No, that's absolutely fine. I'm absolutely on board with that.
Yeah, we have the black hat guy in town, so we're all set. Like, there's going to be crimes.
Indeed. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so 5 nights later, another issue of the Barking and Dagenham Herald comes out, and this is Friday, March the 20th, and it's an interview with Derek Kane, and the story reads, "It's quite a coup for the Barking and Dagenham Herald that we have managed to secure an interview with well-known reclusive actor Derek Kane. Younger viewers may be familiar with Mr. Kane from his recent role in the smash hit Darkling Avenger, where he portrayed the elderly advisor to the young hero. Older readers will no doubt remember Mr. Kane from such war movies as The Guns That Never Stopped. For the full interview, turn to page 5, where Mr. Kane outlines his plans for the future, talks to us about his semi-retirement, some intriguing roles in the works, and how in later life he has discovered the joys of sharing his wealth and using them to effect positive social change via his membership in the religious and charitable organisation, the Church of the Midnight Sun."
So the ministry is Scientology. At this point, are they
certainly
target
seem to be
celebrities?
adopting that model.
Okay. Well, there are allies.
Okay, so then we
They're
have
successful. We're successful.
we have another week passing before present day, which will be the 27th of March, again Friday. So in the course of that week, is there anything like you guys wish to do in particular?
No, nothing like significant.
Okay, so we move to the night of the 27th of March. It's a Friday. You're obviously both sort of staying at the backup haven belonging to Zephyr. You've both risen for the evening, so can you both make me rouse rolls, please? Obviously, if you fail, your hunger goes up by 1. Okay, so Adrian, your hunger's increased. What's your hunger on now?
2.
Okay, no problems. Okay, so you've risen for the evening. You're about doing your normal stuff when, Seth, your mobile phone begins to ring. Do you answer it, or?
Sorry, I think that was for me.
Yeah, it was.
it?
Yeah, your mobile phone starts to ring.
Yeah. Who is it?
Okay, you see it's got withheld.
Do I
number.
have the? I guess the question is, do I have the number?
Yeah, it says withheld number or private number.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do the. I've probably traded in my chopsticks for a spoon, so I'm
moving with the
using
times,
a like teaspoon to
yeah, no problem.
punch it in. Yeah.
So you answer the phone using your normal method, and you hear a male
I
voice.
don't say anything. I open the line because
Yeah.
when I speak, things go wrong. So
That's fine. You hear a male voice on the other end of the line say, "Hello, is that Mr. Smith?"
okay, then we're trying to make this work. I will rouse the blood to give me an extra die to use this goddamn phone. So there we go. Okay, so I don't get hungrier, but I get +1. And let me quickly refer it because I still don't remember the full pool for this. So Chicago, and then oh yeah, I guess it's on my sheet, but I'll reopen the book. So
That's fine.
Okay, here we go. Difficulty. So it's difficulty 3 for me. Technology test. Just a technology test?
I would say like intelligence technology or something. So that you have to pair. As far as I'm concerned, you have to pair an attribute with a skill.
Yeah. So technology is there, and then intelligence modifier is 1 because of my blood surge. No. So I don't know how it sounds on the other side, but I know how it might sound like. So
Okay.
I sort of as an insurance, I sort of give space enough for it to seem like there's some sort of a delay or disruption on the line because I failed it.
I was going
That
to say,
means
what is
that
the effect of the failure?
my voice isn't being properly picked up by the phone. So it's
Okay.
it's like cutting away, scratchy.
Okay, so I'll do the other side of the conversation. You just
Yeah.
talk normally, and I'll bear
Yeah.
that in mind.
Yeah.
Hello, is that Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Hello,
This
Mr.
is
Smith. Mr. Smith.
this is Smith, Mr. Smith. Yes.
I'm sorry. It's a very bad line, Mr. Smith. This is Constable Jones from the Barking and Dagenham Police Department.
Hello, Constable.
Are you still there, Mr. Smith?
I try and because the problem is it doesn't pick up me.
Yeah.
The spoon isn't me, so I'm gonna drag the spoon over the microphone to send any kind of
sound,
noise there
yeah.
so that she's staying on the line because I'm like, oh shit, it's
Okay,
not working.
like you say, you can hear it's like a young man on the other end of the line, and he says, I can barely hear you, Mr. Smith, but I'm just ringing to tell you that you're okay to move back into your apartment. We've finished our work there, but unfortunately, an additional 2 bodies were discovered, as well as the original one in your apartment. Obviously, we've had to remove them, and there was significant disruption to the concrete floor of your apartment. But we've had that reworked now. I have to apologise on behalf of the department. You should have been contacted a few days ago, but I'm afraid Detective Inspector Kamal wasn't available, and I'm afraid the notice to call you slipped through the cracks. I'm very sorry about this.
That is all right, and I just
Hello,
like
Mr. Smith?
cross my fingers.
Okay,
Shit.
again, I can't really hear you, Mr. Smith, but I hope you can hear this. If any of this is unclear, of course you can come down to the station house. But I hope you've managed to get this message. Again, I'm terribly sorry that you weren't told earlier, but as I say, Detective Inspector Kamal wasn't available. At this point, can you make me a wits insight roll?
Insight, wits, bloop. 2.
Okay, so as this young Constable Jones is talking to you and he's mentioning Detective Inspector Kamal, although he's not giving any details, he actually sounds like he's a little bit concerned and a little bit sort of worried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, he's calling me because he has to now because someone told him to, but he's more concerned about the fact that Kamal wasn't doing the call before.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yep.
And he says, but as I say, you're free to move back into your apartment anytime you wish from now, Mr. Smith.
That is fantastic. I am grateful.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Smith. I'm going to end the call now. If any of this has been unclear or you've not got any of this, feel free to come down to the station house and we can obviously go through all this in person. It's a very bad line, but I hope you got the message, Mr. Smith. And again, apologies for the lateness of our call. I hope you have a pleasant evening. And then he hangs up.
You as well.
He doesn't wait for you to respond. He's obviously gone like, this line is like crap.
Yeah,
and he
this
just hangs
is
up
shit.
straight away. It's just like, oh, I'm sorry, but yeah, you can move in. Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Yeah, and I go so like you as well, and then I hear the boop boop fucking thing, and I fold it back in to my pocket with the spoon. And, okay, so we're both in the sort of backup haven, I guess. Or Adrian, are you there? Are you off somewhere else?
Yeah.
Yep.
I assume I would be there for the time being.
Yeah, so you're both in East Brookend Cemetery, like the backup haven that Sophia loaned you while your apartment was out of action, Seth.
Yeah, so given that it's probably not a massive building or
No,
room
it's not
rather
huge.
for us, so we're probably sleeping in the same room during the day. So yeah, you just witnessed all that go down.
Yep.
Seth having a very unsuccessful phone call, which you've known him to do weird shit with the phone and the chopsticks, but it's never been this bad before.
Yeah. So sorry, are you just describing the phone conversation you just had? Cut out for a moment.
Yeah. It's like you witnessed all this because it's probably a small room that we're in. So you're privy to all that, and that was the worst it's been with Seth and phones. It hasn't been that shitty in a while, at least.
You doing all right?
It's the fucking garbage phone. I suppose in a way it's nice. These things don't seem to get along well with me. In a way it's kind of nice, but in a way it's really, really frustrating. I can do text with the spoon, which is better than nothing, I guess, but you saw how that went when I'm trying to speak to it. It doesn't pick me up. It's as if I wasn't here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what I can do about that.
Yeah, no, I don't think this goes beyond everyone's pay grade. I think this is someone else's design, I think. But yeah, how is your day? What ridiculous shit are you having to deal with as a result of our current condition? Anything particularly stand out?
Our current condition?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I can't talk to people on the phone. Like that's a thing for me because of this. So I was just wondering, are you carrying any particular crosses around?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that I can't, and I'm very picky for who I drink from.
Oh. Okay. That sounds problematic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At times, but could be manageable. Find the right stable herd. But anyway, checking newspapers. The ministry seem to be doing fine in their recruitment, and Harold Underwood has perished in his dwelling.
Yeah. I think there's a fair chance that actually happened. See, he seemed to be the type who wouldn't necessarily do that kind of disappearing act, And also, he seemed like he would be up his own ass enough for him to be vulnerable, that kind of way.
Yeah. Also, he seemed quite gung ho about trying to lead the society.
Hmm.
So I'm surprised he didn't seize on that opportunity. But the question is, who did it?
I would put some amount of money on the progeny.
Hmm.
We already know that there was bad blood
was
there. So.
there. Yeah. Huh. Bad blood. Clever.
Mhm.
Anyway, she was at the meeting, so
Hmm. Yeah, maybe we need to go and have a chat with her about this.
And also,
yeah.
why are you thinking about
That's
that?
good.
How is Seth feeling about potentially there being an issue with Maya Kamal?
Yeah, that's like this is all like catching up with Adrian. Priority number one is, and it's gonna be a doozy. Probably take a lot of time. Like track down like what happened. Like what was she working on? I kind of know a little bit, but obviously like she has something going on that goes beyond like going to buildings which the police is investigating and then letting the people know that, oh, the police are commandeering your apartment. There's clearly more than that, and Seth doesn't have access to a lot of things to find all that out. So it's probably going to take a lot of time, I think, maybe depending on the role, I guess. But yeah, he's thinking about like the strategies of how to achieve that, like where to go to pick up the trail. So yes, I think two things to consider here: what happened to Underwood and who did it, and also sort of dig more into Finn's posse, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they have something going on as well. Oh,
So
third
regarding
item. Sorry,
Underwood,
before.
I think it was potentially.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
there's probably a delay again. Sorry about that.
Oh. Okay. Um. No, there definitely is. Okay, so just saying. Regarding Underwood, I think it was either someone else or maybe one of those Thin Bloods was able to burn the place down during the day or set something up before coming here.
Can they actually do
Okay.
that during the day?
I heard I know that some of their weaknesses and strengths are both very limited, so maybe.
Oh shit, we didn't know about that at all. That seems like a massive. Okay, that's good. We need all of these people on our side
Yeah.
immediately. Okay.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, so I think. Should we divide this, or do we want to go together to check out these things?
I'm not too sure about the Underwood thing. I feel like I'm not entirely sure it's even an issue.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think it is not an issue, but it would be useful to find out who did it.
Yeah, perhaps we could use that information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have contacts in the police?
Yes, some anyway.
I don't know how far that extends, but do you think you could either get an autopsy report or something?
I might. Okay, so I think let's mark that down for me. I'll try and see about that.
All right.
Do you want to try and see what Finn is about, other than the obvious posturing?
Yeah, I think that would be prudent.
Yeah. Also, something I neglected to mention. I'm sorry about this. I was invited to a club. They didn't give me the card yet,
Yeah.
but there's a group. It's Zofia. There's Blake. Someone else as well, and they're into the kind of things that are more outre, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured, yeah, I might as well get in with them now, especially now that Sophia is the director. So
Okay. So yeah. So like a coterie?
I think that's what they called it. I'm not sure that that word has the meaning that it seems like people seem to think it does, given the new world order we've just set up. But I suppose we'll see how it translates into whatever this new society is. But yeah, for now, I think
Okay.
that's what they call it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, congrats.
Well, thank you. Don't take this to mean that we shouldn't be like. I checked. I'm still allowed to hang with my friends. It's not that kind of cult.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. No, I think there's a certain unity of vision, which maybe we are the only ones to share that. And regardless of how many book clubs I get invited to, I would just like to, for the record, I would like to state that I think you and me have the best shot at building something out of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right. So what do we want to do about Finn's crew?
I think we need to find out what they're about, what their sort of drive is. I have a feeling it might not just be territorial, like doing their own thing, being like a gang, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's probably something more to it. And there's the mention which the player of Seth is forgetting who said to us that Finn is calling Honey her secret weapon. I forget who that was, but
It was Amanda Knight, the Nosferatu you rescued,
Right.
who's now a
Yeah,
member
yeah.
of Finn's crew that told you.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So, what is that about? Might be interesting to find out. And given that Amanda is now with them and she's tight with us, I think that's probably a good way in. But there's something that doesn't sit quite right with Blake in
Yeah.
what I'm picking up. There's more to her, I think, and by extension, the group.
Hmm. Maybe I should see if I could infiltrate that coterie.
I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah. I was hoping I wouldn't, but I did anyway.
Isn't that just the guiding principle of our lives now, Adrian?
Uh,
Doing shit we never would
yeah.
want to do.
Yeah, I think I started a government,
Yeah,
so it's kind of
yeah. And I think if nothing else, you probably didn't figure that you would be doing that on this earth. So at
Yeah.
least there's something.
Yeah, diversify my skill set.
Mm-hmm. You'll be more employable going forward. Listen, I eat rotting corpses. If you successfully kickstart a small government, I think you're doing well, and I applaud you for it.
Well, yeah, okay. There can always be a brighter side, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
I
very
yeah. I'm looking for
glass half
those.
full. All right. So, if I infiltrate Blake's coterie,
Mm-hmm.
no, well, sorry, I get Blake and Finn confused sometimes.
Yeah, I think you mean Finn's
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, Finn.
Yeah, Finn's coterie. How do you feel about I mean, Sophia's coterie? Do you trust them?
I think. Well, the standard answer is no, and no one should explicitly trust. I guess like most of these people we now have in our little society here, but I think given what we've seen and given some of the opportunities, if they have some malfeasance on the mind, it's something more subtle, and then we would have to deal with in the long term. Deal with that in the long term anyway. Um, they of course these are more cerebral than maybe the bruisers that um, we saw in the audience as well. But yeah, I think for the moment I'm comfortable with them. Um, I think if they had a plan of immediate maliciousness, if we would have seen parts of that already.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, if the Enlightened Coven was evil, we would have seen snippets of that already.
Yeah, I think that. Well, at least where I obviously I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open. That's half the point of this all. So I guess I will let you know. But for the moment, I think they're all right.
Okay. Interesting. What about the ministry?
Oh, they're an outfit. They're a unit in operation. So I would say the biggest opportunity and threat for our little society here is those people, those four.
Hmm.
And I don't quite know how to leverage all that.
Well, yeah, well, I offered to help them out if they needed anything. It seemed like prudent to be on good terms with them.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So I guess, do we have a goal?
Short term,
Yeah.
determine what happened to Underwood, who did it, figure out Finn's posse, get in good with Finn's posse, potentially the ministry, potentially the Enlightened Coven, of which I am now a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And in the long term, well, I guess Adrian, this is where we ask each other what we want.
I'm not sure. I mean, Did you want to be the director?
I kind of did, but I can see how I might not be the best one in that specific role.
Yeah, well, looking at the charter, I mean, there's a term. Yeah, looks like you have 3 years to become worthy of the role.
Hmm. Well, that is something. Truly, uh, there's slim pickings, to say the least, here for that role. I think we were saved a lot of headache because it went to someone as
Hmm.
Collected as Sophia.
Yes.
So, in that regard, I would like to safeguard the future against the director title going to someone who will be the opposite of what I
Well,
deem good qualities.
well, but there's not only is there a term limit of 3 years, but you can't if you've served two terms in the past 18 years, you can't be elected.
Mm.
So it's going to be quite hard to gatekeep
Mm-hmm.
that out, assuming an organization doesn't grow in size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it doesn't grow in size, potential political opponents are going to get a chance at being director. And everyone seemed very reasonable at the last meeting. However, it's only a matter of time before people realize how to abuse those laws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I suppose right now, looking into the future, I would like to give this the best shot that we can, which probably at some point means trying for the director again next time.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Zafir doesn't even want to hold the role for that long.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, she could abdicate. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also mean maybe she doesn't want another term.
Hmm. All right. Well, I think honestly, if we're trying to make a go of this, we need to give it time to settle in, and then we need to start building more infrastructure on this. Adrian, I think we are building a country, a minuscule country, is what we're building.
Okay.
And of course, going forward, people will want to create more. That will be a problem. We'll need to expand in scope eventually, I think. People won't be for population controls. That's probably clear at this point.
Yeah.
In any drastic measure, at least. So, and we've already established that we're not going to start killing people in the street just because of who they are and who or what killed them. So, I think the long-term plan is going to be expanding into other boroughs of London.
Okay. And eventually just encompassing all of London.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. We would need to build a lot of infrastructure, as you say.
And that is also something that we need to think about when we encounter existing infrastructure or whatever they're gonna have out there.
If it already exists, we can make use of it.
Yeah, I think that's what they did in the American frontier.
Yeah.
You get annexed if you already have the stuff. Then it's just easier. But then we encounter the problem that not everyone is going to appreciate the conquering king or queen coming to their door and being like, well, you seem to have things well under control here. Now just pay heed to what I decree, or we decree, I guess, as a society, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
There's going to be diplomacy to be done there. But that's the way I see this going if we want to actually make a go of this, because this is just a corner of London. Okay. And
Yeah.
if we're going to stay in London, I don't think Barking is going to be the long-term option. We need to be more capable, more
Yeah.
the network needs to reach farther than it does.
Okay. Yeah, so eventually we'll encompass all of London.
Yes.
Okay. I guess the first step is to see if there are any kindred.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And also,
yeah, sorry, you go.
yeah, maybe it would be prudent to make sure our organization is strong enough to stand on its own before we start applying external pressures to it.
Yes, quite. So I think probably the first directorial term, at least I would probably invest and try to get everyone else on board with doing exactly that. So internal cohesion, figure out what resources we have, dismantle active hostilities, which we know that there are. So yeah, and then after all that sort of at least halfway in the bag, we could start exploring the other boroughs for expansion.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I like that plan.
Right. Okay. Good talk. I haven't mentioned any of this to anyone else. So for now,
right, yeah.
It's like I said, I think we have the best chance of sort of acting as the engine of this.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
Okay, I think I need to. There's something distracting me, so I need to go deal with that. So after that's sorted out, I'm gonna start working on the police, see what's up with the Underwood case, and you're off to, I suppose, join a coterie of your own.
Yeah, if all goes well.
All right. Well, I shall look forward to discussing our respective findings.
Yeah, me too.
All right. I think that's probably that.
Okay. So, Adrian, you're planning on trying to track down Finn's coterie, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I presume you're going to Old Dagenham Park, which is, is their territory.
Yeah. And I can... Yeah, I'll go there and... Yeah, first I'll go there and see what happens. If I don't run into them, I'll go see if I can find Amanda.
Okay, no problem. So you head to Old Dagenham Park. Obviously, you know the way, you've been there before. When you arrive at the the sort of touristy building that they've been using as a haven, you can see that there only appears to be Andrew Crawford, aka Grizzly, there, and Amanda Knight, and they just appear to be like chilling out. They're like just passing the time. A little bit of
Hello,
chit-chat.
Amanda.
Oh, hi.
Grizzly.
Hi. Grizzly's up. All right.
Yeah. How are y'all been?
Yeah, not too bad, says Grizzly. Yourself?
Yeah, I've been alright.
He nods.
How are you two adjusting to this new society?
Well, to be honest, says Grizzly, like, not much seems to have changed as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we were keeping ourselves out of trouble before this new society, and we're keeping ourselves out of trouble now, so we've still got a domain.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Oh, yeah, if all goes well, then yeah, it should keep that way.
Amanda says, how are you doing anyway, Adrian?
Good. Same old, looking for like probably a proper haven for myself at this point. You know how it is. Yeah. Not too sure what to do with myself now that we've like established the society. Yeah. And basically I just kind of may say centrally like develops towards like talking about their coterie.
Okay, so what is it? Are you trying to find out something in particular, or?
Oh no, not really. I just kind of want the conversation to go there.
Well, yeah, they're quite happily talking about the coterie. Grizzly says it's only him and Amanda about at the moment. He says they're just killing a bit of time. They've got nothing particularly on at the minute.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, oh, if you need to ask any like particulars about the coterie or whatnot, you need to speak to Finn. I don't know when she's going to be back.
Oh yeah. She keeping busy?
Yeah. She's gone out with the others. I'm not sure where. Obviously, because Amanda is a bit new. He says, "No offense, Amanda," and she's like, "Well, none taken." He's like, "Because she's a bit new, like they've left me here to like keep an eye on her, make sure she's all right, because I can handle myself. So if anything like untoward did happen in the territory, hopefully me and Amanda will be able to like sort it out." We always try and leave we always try and leave like one person who can like look after themselves a bit whenever the coterie goes out. Safety first and all that.
Yeah. I wouldn't know. Yeah, it sounds like a smart idea. I try to subtly like drop the hint that I might be like interested in joining a coterie, but I don't like try to make it obvious.
Oh right, okay, that sounds like some sort of role to me.
Oh boy. Oh, hang on, I have to be open. Yeah, I guess that's no, it's manipulation.
It'd probably be some
It's
sort of
subterfuge manipulation, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm not horrible at this. The roll hasn't come up yet.
There we go, 2 successes. Okay, so after a while you manage to sort of bring the conversation subtly around to that, and Grizzly says, well, if if you're looking to, if you're a bit of a loose end, maybe you're looking to like sign on with the crew, you could do worse than like sign on with Finn. But like I say, you'd really have to speak to her, and I'm not really sure what time she's going to be back. She's got like the final say on who's in and who's not in. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, Amanda has my contact information. Would you let her know that I'm interested?
Amanda's like, oh yeah, sure. Well, when Finn gets back, we'll let her know. And obviously, if she wants to like meet up with you or whatever, I've got your number. We can sort it out.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess I'll leave you two to your vibing.
She says, Amanda says, is there any problems, Grizzly, with me like walking Adrian to the edge of the park? You know, just want to have a bit of chat about old times. You know, we'll see how he's getting on, find out how Seth's getting on. Nothing I'm sure you'd be interested in. He's like, yeah, do whatever. He's like, as long as I can see you, it's all good. She's like, oh yeah, we're only going over to the edge of the park there. He's like, yeah, whatever. And Amanda sort of like stands up and sort of starts walking with you towards the edge of the park.
Yeah. Does he say that in like a way that's like, yeah, kids, you can just run around, but like make sure like we can see you,
Yeah.
or is it more like I want you to know, I want you to like be like I need to know where you are at all times.
He seems more like
Yeah.
he seems more like he's just like concerned with the fact that obviously he's been assigned the task of like keeping an eye on Amanda, so he's like, oh, you know, I've got to like keep my eyes on you, but like otherwise he's not too fussed. He's like, yeah, sure, going like walking to the edge of the park, that's fine, as long as I can see you.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
So Amanda starts walking you towards the edge of the park, and then when you're sort of beyond earshot of Grizzly, she like leans into you a bit and she says, look, I couldn't say anything before, Adrian, but I don't know exactly where Finn and the others were going, but let's just say they looked like they were expecting some trouble.
Huh.
And
okay.
they didn't say any details. So I got the feeling that Grizzly knew more than he was letting on, but like I got the feeling that since I'm like a new member, and you know maybe because I'm connected with you guys, I don't know. They like left me behind deliberately and like, left him with me. If you get what I mean.
Interesting.
It might just be me being paranoid. I don't know. I mean, but it definitely seemed like there was more going on than they were telling me.
It never hurts to be paranoid in this day and age. So, did they say anything in particular?
No, it just certainly not while I was around. But Finn gave Crawford a bit of a look when she left. You know, when she sounded like she was saying, "Oh yeah, keep an eye on the new member." But you know, she gave him a bit of a look when she said it, and I just like caught it. And like she took all the rest of them, and they went to me. Like I say, they were like, they seemed to be like getting themselves like tooled up, like they were expecting some sort of trouble.
Huh. So the rest of them, Hi, Eva, and Pavel? Pavel?
Yeah, Pavel, yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
And Honey, obviously, yeah.
And who?
Finn, Pavel, Honey.
Yeah. Eva?
Oh, yeah, Eva as well, yeah.
Okay. Huh, that's interesting. And how long ago did they leave?
Oh, it was like start of the evening, like pretty much straight away.
Well, I'll have to keep an eye out. See if any damage shows up.
She says, listen, weird thing. The reason it struck me as weird is because this isn't the first time they've done this and like left me here with Crawford. They've done it each night for like the last 3 nights.
Huh. So I kind of think, is there anything like that's been happening the past few nights that I might be like, oh yeah, there was increased violence in this area, or like anything that I've heard
Nothing
that
of
might
that.
even be tangent.
Nothing of that nature that springs to mind. No.
Okay, interesting. Okay, sounds like they're just planning. They're working on something. Hmm. They didn't come back particularly hungry.
She says, no, not particularly hungry, but I did notice when they came back. At one point, I noticed that Finn had, like, you know that leather jacket that like Finn wears all the time. I noticed she had like a few
Yeah.
spots of blood on the sleeve.
Hmm. Okay, this is interesting and disturbing.
So, but like I say, they've again, the reason why I was a bit suspicious about it is because like they've very deliberately like not mentioned anything about it, and whenever I've sort of tried to like say, oh, everything go okay with whatever you're doing tonight, they've been like very closed off about it. They've just sort of like brushed it off and been like, yeah, nothing for you to worry about. So that sort of like
Hmm.
made me a bit suspicious. I mean, obviously, as you know, with like what happened to me when I was embraced, um, I'm keen to like find out as much as I can to make sure I don't get myself in like any more trouble. So I'm always sort of like asking questions and trying to find out what's going on, just so I know what's going on and I don't get into trouble. So as soon as they started being like dead closed off, it just sort of set alarm bells ringing.
Interesting. Can you think of anything else?
No, that was it really. Like I say, the last few nights they've sort of gone out at the start of the night and come back like fairly late on, and each time they've left me with Crawford.
Interesting. So they're getting into fights, but they're not bringing in their strongest guy.
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh. Um. Hey. Um. Why don't you? All right. From now on, can you send me um text messages just every, I don't know, 4 hours or something? Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want me to text you?
And oh, nothing real. Just anything really. Just make it seem like we're just having a normal conversation. If you don't respond, I will, or if you respond with, and then I give her like a random emoji or something,
Okay.
um, then I will know that something's up, and I'll come to check
Yeah. I can do that.
to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Yeah, no problems. Look, I best start getting back, or Crawford will start getting a bit suspicious. We're getting to the edge of the park. Anyway, yeah. I'll text you. You look after yourself, okay?
All right, you too.
She nods and obviously like more for like Crawford's benefit. She sort of like just sort of like does like a bit of a laugh and like pats you on the shoulder and gives you like a bit of a wink and then turns around and heads back.
Yeah, I give her like a wave bye, and then I like leave the park.
Okay, no
Okay,
problems.
that was disturbing.
Okay, so we're going to jump across to Seth. Seth, what are you doing?
Hi. Yeah. It's going to be a montage of Seth trying to find the end of the string that he can pull on to determine what happened to Kamal. And yeah, I'm fully aware that it might be a long thing.
Well, that's fine. We'll because we're being a bit sort of timey wimey with like the intervening period. Let's sort of like reduce the start of you finding out sort of down to a role. So, have you got any suggestions as to what sort of role you'd like to make? So it's tied into your sort of background experience. I'm going to say
So
because you're dealing with the police. If you want to call on your other contact in the police, you could certainly do
yeah,
so.
that is.
So if you want to call on a younger Rosa Miller,
Yeah,
you can do so and add
that's
a
a
dice.
problem because I'm not supposed to exist, and
Indeed.
she doesn't know that.
Well, that's the thing.
I
Obviously,
do.
if
Yeah,
you call on her, you'll get a bonus dice. But if the roll
yeah,
fails, like something will go awry
yeah,
because of that.
yeah. No, yeah, we're not doing that. So yeah, he's not gonna go in from that angle. So
Okay.
I guess. Yeah, the thing is, he's probably going to have to start an actual crew, quote unquote, of criminals
Okay.
because he needs other people to do certain things. He could break into a building, but there might be difficulties with getting onto a computer. So, or maybe just cultivating. So what I will do, John,
Yep.
whatever it will take to we have, as a coterie, we have some stuff that might be good for this. So I'm referring to the coterie sheet now. Where did we put that? Oh yeah, it's in the Barking City. Yeah, so
Yep.
Barking City block. Yeah, so we actually do have influence in the police and the media.
You do indeed.
So yeah, that is the thing that I want to get onto.
Yep. So
Yeah.
because of that and your current level, it means you're entrenched. Multiple
Yeah.
factions and power brokers hesitate to oppose you. So if you just want to find out basic information, done. You can do that.
Yeah, and I'll find the specifics myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so it takes you a little while, but like using your influence, you manage to find out that a few days ago, Detective Inspector Kamal, failed to turn up to work. After like a day or two, a policeman was sent round to her building just to like find out what was going on. They tried calling her, no response. When they arrived at the apartment, they found that it appeared to have been ransacked. There was no sign of a body or actual violence, so currently the department are treating it as a missing persons case.
Okay. And presumably a break-in
Yes.
of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah, they found the lock on the door had been forced, and there were signs like the place had been ransacked and like drawers emptied, sort of things in disarray, etc. And that's at Kamal's apartment in Goresbrook.
Okay then. So my project, and this, unless I hit on the thing immediately, this will probably, like I said, take some time because I don't exactly know who might do this, so I can't immediately go there. So what I would do is I would stalk out the place for a little bit, see what comes up. If there's people who are keeping an eye on the apartment, yeah, I think that's probably the first step. Like check out if someone else is keeping an eye on the apartment.
Okay.
And if I can't spot anyone, I will go and have a look-see myself in the apartment.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So make me I'll say a wits investigation roll.
Okay, so I managed to displace my character sheet, so I'll find that. Here we go. Investigation, wits. There we go. That's a shit roll, and I will I will willpower that. So let's see. Willpower reroll. I have 3 more dice that I can reroll. So, blip. Okay, 2 successes. Still a shit roll, but here we are.
Okay, so when you're sort of scouting around, you see there does appear to be like a very small sort of like police presence. Obviously, they're basically like bagging up personal effects and like looking for evidence in the apartment. But aside from that, there doesn't seem to be anyone like actively surveilling the property.
Okay. Hmm. Would it be possible to sneak in there to perhaps pilfer some shit, or otherwise take a look around in the apartment itself?
Yeah, make me a wits subterfuge roll.
So subterfuge in this is the social bit, as far as I understand it.
My apologies, I meant stealth.
Yeah. And since we're in stealth, I will conjure, you know what?
Yeah.
The shadow
shadows.
cloak. Yeah.
That's fine.
So let's see. Start and wait and what are these rolls tonight? Okay, so 3.
It's still 3 successes though, so
Yep.
you wrap the shadows around yourself, and like I say, the police presence is fairly minor because it's like a missing person case. So you wait for a little bit until most of them are sort of left, and there's just like one sort of like police person out, like police officer outside, just keeping a bit of an eye on the place, and you easily slip inside. Like I say, the apartment's in like complete disarray. As you're looking around, unsurprisingly, you don't find a great deal because obviously the police have already been in there. However, as you're sort of searching, eventually, as you look under the bed in like the bedroom, you find what appears to be a wallet lying against the wall, like maybe it was like kicked or dropped and like kicked under the bed or something.
Yeah. Okay.
And it appears to have been like overlooked by the police.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll fish that out.
Yeah,
And,
as you sort of reach in, like obviously it's like sort of fallen open.
Yeah.
And as you pull the wallet out, you can see that there's a bit of loose change in there, a few coins. There's a few sort of banknotes in there, driver's license, a few other bits and pieces what you'd expect in a wallet. However, you also find what appears to be a small sort of like, like the little Polaroid like photos.
Yeah.
There appears to be a little Polaroid photo, and it's a photo of you in your mortal days, Maya Kamal, and a few other of like your colleagues of that era.
Yeah.
So, and you remember this photo being taken. It's like just shortly before you sort of like left, and it's like a group of you all sort of like together, and like someone's taking a photo with like one of those like cheap Polaroids.
Yeah. Okay. That I will definitely take. So it seems to be Maya's wallet then.
Yeah, it's got her driving like a card driving license in it.
Yeah. I'll take the whole thing. And so does it have her like cards and stuff in?
It does indeed, and as you're sort of searching through, you find her cards. You also find what appears to be like a small piece of like just like white paper that's been like folded up very small, and it's been like tucked far down in like one of the back pockets of the wallet.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I guess I'll just go through the whole thing, spread it on the carpet, or rather the floor, and
you lay it all out. You open up this piece of paper, and on the there's no writing or anything on it, but on the center of it is drawn like a small black crown.
Okay. Right. So, does that have meaning to me? Am I able to roll for something to puzzle that out?
I'm going to say you don't have to make a roll. I'll remind you that when you were contacted by the mysterious sort of possible antigen agent, they used the black crown as their
King Edward
motif, indeed,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
So King Edward. I feel a conspiracy board forming in our haven. Okay. I suppose there wasn't. I suppose there was no way of me contacting this King Edward, was there?
No, not
From
not
the
that you've been
previous
given.
correspondence, no. All right, so I will gather up all the effects, put it back in, and if it has her like ID card and stuff,
Yeah.
that will be very useful going forward, and I'll take all of it.
Not a problem.
I will check for like if did they take her sort of furnishings?
It doesn't look so much like the furnishings have been taken, but like
Mm.
drawers have been pulled out of cupboards
Yeah.
and just like dropped on the floor. The
Yeah.
bed sheets are in disarray.
Yeah.
In fact, make me another wits investigation roll.
Okay. Investigation. Wits.
Okay, now obviously, as someone who was trained to sort of like look at like crime scenes and look for
Yeah.
evidence and surveil things, as you're sort of looking around, and obviously taking into account the police have removed stuff, as you're looking around, it doesn't look as though like actually anything's been taken. It looks more like someone's just like messed everything up
Thrown
to
it
make it
around.
look like a place has been robbed.
Yeah. Right.
Because you're like, if someone was actually robbing the place, they'd have certainly like taken this wallet or at least the money
Yeah.
out of it.
So I'll make a note of that, and I will do a pass. I'll put on, because Seth is the kind of creep who will have the blue sort of nitrile glove
Yeah.
in his back pocket,
Yeah.
just in case for a night on town. You never know what happens. So he puts the blue glove on, and he does a round of just like knocking lightly on surfaces just to check if there's anything in the walls, the structures of the apartment, anything extra. And if not, then I think ready to leave.
Okay, you sort of knock around. You don't find anything at first. However, as you're tapping one of the drawers, you realise it's got a false bottom on it.
Ah, okay. Wasn't really expecting that, but okay. So yeah, let's see if we can figure it out. So take it out, sort of
Yeah,
figure out what the dimensions are, and then like try and work it open from somewhere.
that's fine. It takes you a little while, but yeah, you open up. There's like a concealed like wire loop that you use to like lift up the false bottom.
Yeah.
You eventually find it. You lift it up. Inside there's like a plain white envelope with a piece of paper in. You take it out. You open it up, and just in like typewritten text, there's like a couple of lines in the middle of this like A4 sheet,
Yeah.
and it just says, "Congratulations, Miss Kamal. Your application has been accepted."
Okay. So Seth's immediate conclusion is going to be that King Edward is probably a kind of antigen case officer who has disturbing amount of detail on on Seth as well, because he wasn't supposed to be found after what happened.
Quite
And
true.
for our information and for everyone else who might be watching as well, Seth has the merit called zeroed. There is, if you type into any database anywhere on Earth, Seth Morgan, which is his real name, nothing will come up. He does not exist officially anywhere, and that's the work of Antigen. Like they cleaned him out so that he could be sort of extremely deniable asset. So
Yeah, it's like the old like Man in Black thing, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
they just like erase them from all the databases.
and then you can do whatever you need to, and you leave all the fingerprints you want. If you're slobby, no one will ever find out who you are. So it doesn't exist in any public eye. However, King Edward knows about him, which is disturbing, and he also draws the conclusion now, because he thinks King Edward is a case officer, that the maybe King Edward is the same case officer he had before, in the sort of antigen conspiracy circles, and that Kamal has now been recruited. Maybe he's not sure about the application thing. It didn't work like that for him. It was a different situation, but yeah, that's what he's thinking now because he has the two. Like he has the crown, and he can't think of anything else that would be plausible for both someone contacting him when no one should, and Kamal having applied for something and then hidden this paper. So again, take that out as well, and tuck it in the pocket.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. You've got that letter and all the
Yeah.
sort of effects from the wallet and the piece of paper with the crown on it, etc.
Yeah. Are the police still outside loading up their car?
Most of them have gone by now.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's just like one sort of constable who's been left behind. Obviously, just like to keep a bit of an eye on the place.
Yeah.
Presumably,
So
in
I'll,
case Miss Kamal comes back, because like I say, it's a missing person case at the minute.
So I'll find my way out of there and go into an alley and drop the shadow cloak and then walk out as if just out on a walk. And
Yeah, no problems.
I'll stroll up to the guy. Presumably, just like he's being left behind by the rest. So
Yeah, he's just sort of stood about. You see him like sort of look up and down the street, but he's not like on a high alert or anything.
Yeah, because he's settling down for a long night.
That's it. Yeah, you can tell by the look. Like, see, you've got experience here. You can tell by the look of him that obviously he's just been told to like stay here, and he's got like, one of those little radios on. He's obviously been told like if Constable Kamal turns up, like radio in and let him know.
Yeah. So I'll just walk up and it's like, hello.
He's like, good evening, sir.
Always good to see the Metropolitan keeping an eye on our streets around here.
He sort of straightens himself up and he's like, oh, thank you very much, sir.
I don't mean to make this awkward, though it already is, and my apologies for that. Any particular reason you're posted around here? It's just I'm coming from a relative's, and if there's something happening around here that
he says, it's nothing you need to worry about, sir. I'm basically just waiting here to make contact with one of the other constables. Just waiting for her to turn up, and then I can knock off and let the station house know that she's arrived. Nothing you need to worry about, sir. There's nothing going on.
Okay. Yeah, that. Thank you for that.
Oh, no, not a problem, sir. You have a good evening.
Yeah, you as well.
So,
I'll
are
continue
you all right,
on.
by the way, sir? You're looking a bit pale.
I'm gonna make a roll for this. He's a terrible liar, and I'm just gonna roll like how terrible of a lie he comes up with for this shit. It's one success, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So, I guess I'll. You know how sometimes you're not eating right, and apparently, if you're not getting enough iron, it will eventually eat through the iron reserves in your body. That takes a long time to replenish.
He's like, oh, I'll tell you what you want to do. You want to get yourself down to Holland and Barrett and get some of those like vitamin supplements, those like iron supplements. That's what you are.
Oh yeah. I believe me, officer. I'm having that. I'm also having it injected. It's an American treatment.
He's like, oh, really? He's like, I never heard of it.
Yeah. They I hadn't heard about that either before I came up with this, yeah, it's quite the thing. It knocks you out for a good bit, and it's why I'm sort of visiting the relatives, because I kind of need someone to keep an eye on me, because I tend to be all kinds of woozy after the iron injections,
He's like, well, I hope everything turns out all right for you, sir.
Yeah. You as well. And I think he's because I haven't put on the blush. He is on the pale side, and he's also a an obvious predator. So he's all kinds of fucked up when he needs to do anything social with people. So I guess he gives an extremely predatory look out of nowhere at this officer, like having sort of muddled his way through the lie, and then at the last second when he's about to turn away, he it goes all intense, and I think there's a sort of lip licking action there, which is not okay
Okay.
in this instance.
So,
And
so as you're sort of leaving and heading off, make me a straight wits roll.
wits. That would be a 1.
Okay, so as you're sort of walking away, just like on the very edge of your hearing, you can hear like the policeman's outside like, on his radio, and he's like reporting like a possible suspicious person in the area, and he's like giving your description. He's like he's like trying to do it a bit quietly, but like you managed to like just catch it.
This is 405. We have a creep.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's obviously like giving him like your physical description and whatnot.
Yeah. And I'll go on my way.
Yeah, no problems. Okay, now obviously we're getting on a bit, guys. So, is there anything else in particular you guys want to do before the end of the evening?
I guess I'm good for the moment.
Okay, I don't know if have we still got Adrian there.
The connection has been a bit spotty, so
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Hey, sorry about that.
Here we go.
No, it's alright, dude. I was just saying because we're getting on a bit. Is there anything else you guys wish to do, like, but before the end of the evening? If not, I've got one more little scene, and then we'll sort of wrap up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Okay, splendid. In which case, as you're presumably heading back to like meet up with each other, sort of like before the end of the evening, get a bit shut eye, etc. As you're sort of walking down the street, Adrian, sort of heading to like meet up with Seth, you happen to walk past a bookstore which is open, and it's late in the evening, so it's a bit unusual. As you're walking past, you see in the window there's like a big poster, and it has a familiar figure on it, which I've now just shared a picture of. And the poster, underneath the picture of a man who looks suspiciously like Robin Williams, the poster says, special nighttime signing with crime fiction writer Sean Waters talking about his new smash hit novel, Blood Moon. And as you sort of look at it, underneath the little underneath the byline in sort of smaller writing, it reads, "In this thrilling horror crime detective drama, the author seamlessly blends realistic police procedures, nail-biting suspense, and hints of supernatural terror in the tale of one woman's crusade to find the killer of her father, a creature that has stalked the shadows for ages."
No. I just like kind of look at this in disbelief.
Okay, as you're looking at it beyond in the sort of like lit up sort of main area of the bookstore, you can see Sean Waters, obviously a bit older than when you last saw him, and he stood there. There's like a number of like fans around him. There's like copies of these books on the table. Like people are going up to him with copies of the books, and he's like oh, yeah, chatting to him. He looks a little bit sort of like tired and like a bit exasperated, but he's like chatting, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll sign your book for you, no problem." Like signing books and passing them out. People are coming up to him with like copies of like other books, presumably his, and he's like signing them and doing the general sort of chit chat, meet and greet style thing with like the fans who have obviously attended this like late night sort of author signing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go in briefly. I'll pull my hood up since I don't want to be like, I don't want to deal with that conversation of, hey, where have you been? You've disappeared. You look so pale now. Um,
You wouldn't be an undead creature of the night, would you?
yeah, all these common questions.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just like gonna like kind of survey the situation and probably leave quite quickly.
Okay, so can you make me a wit stealth roll to see how well you disguise yourself?
Oh boy. What stealth?
Yep.
It's gonna be what's.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a success.
And it's a hunger success as well.
Oh boy.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is like you say you've pulled your hood up, but you are getting quite hungry, and you spot a young woman in the sort of like the group of fans who's like got like a pretty good physique, obviously works out, and you're sort of like leaning closer, going like, oh, I might follow this person out, you know, looks like could be my preferred feeding type, and as you're sort of leant forward, you're so sort of intent on like scoping out this person and sort of like following them that you fail to realise like your hood has fallen back a bit, and you only realise when you hear Sean Waters go, "Oh my god, Adrian! Oh, what are you doing here?" And
No.
he's like, before you even have a chance to be like, "Oh no, it's fine." He's like, "Oh, excuse me, everybody. An old friend of mine. If you and a few people, he's like, if you just excuse me, just got to take a quick break." And everyone's like, "Oh, what?" And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll sign all the books when I get back. Just a friend I've not seen for a long time. I need to just have a quick chat." And he sort of he speaks to the person behind him, who you may assume is like the organizer, and he's like, "Oh, 5 minutes, I'll be back in like 5 minutes." At which point he sort of like comes around the table, you know, walks over to you, and he sort of like almost sort of like very gently sort of like steers you sort of out the door. He takes like a pack of cigarettes out and like starts like smoking the cigarette as he walks outside, and he's like, oh, I'm glad to have an excuse to to get out of that. He's like, "Oh, I know it's necessary. My agent says that, you know, you've got to do the old meet and greet," but he's like, "Oh, gets a bit tiring after a while." And he's like, "Oh, it's been ages, Adrian. Like, how are you doing?"
I'm doing good. Good. You didn't have to stop the signing.
He's like, "Oh no, it's fine." He's like, ever since I sort of retired from therapy to become a full time. I mean, who'd have thought of it? Me, a published author. But ever since I've retired from therapy, I don't really get to see any of my old patients. You know, sort of catch up, find out how they're doing. Obviously, it's been ages. How the devil are you getting on?
Yeah, I've been doing right, you know.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's,
I heard
it's
I heard you'd
something.
got into the you'd got into, what was it, cage fighting, martial arts, or something like that.
Yeah. I did that for a while. Now I'm sort of semi-retired.
He says, "Oh, good money, was it?"
Yeah.
He says, "Well,"
Surprisingly so.
he says, "Obviously, if I was still your therapist, I'm not sure I'd be able to approve of such violent means of like working out your your issues, but well, it seems to have worked for you. And like I say, I'm not your therapist. I'm not anyone's therapist anymore. So I'm just glad to see you doing all right."
Yeah. Was it hard to leave the therapy behind?
Well, to be honest, I hadn't really expected it. I mean, I'd sort of written this like I don't know if you've heard of it. I wrote a book called Soul Water, and it was just like a detective novel. I mean, I thought I spent that much time like dealing with like the police, and I know a lot of their procedures and stuff like that. That I wrote this detective book, and then I sent it off to a few agents. It got knocked back and rejected, and one of the agents who eventually ended up becoming my agent, the person I was talking to in there, sent it back to me, but like actually sent me some feedback and said, "Oh look, it's a good story. You obviously know what you're talking about, but like it just needs like a bit of an extra element." So I sort of put this like weird sort of like horror element in it and sent it back, and obviously it got rejected again, and it went back and forth a few times, but they were quite encouraging. Eventually they accepted it. It sold pretty well, and they agreed to take me on as a full-time client, and I've had like another couple of books come out since then. Obviously the latest Blood Moon is like my fourth book, and yeah, I was able to make enough money that I was able to retire from therapy. I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't hard, 'cause I really did like helping people, but the thing about therapy, I mean, you spend all day listening to other people's problems. Sometimes you forget that like you've got to deal with your own problems as well, and I think that's what I did after a while, and it was starting to wear me down a little bit. But now, yeah, it's great. I mean, I've got more time to spend with my family. I mean, obviously the writing does take up a lot of time, but I get to spend more time with the family. Obviously, I got to go and do tiresome things like this, but you know, it all comes with it. I think overall it's been a good thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad your life has turned out so well.
So you say you retired. What are you up to now?
You know, just a lot of things. Got basically just trying to invest my savings wisely.
Well,
You know
yeah,
how it is.
yeah. I mean, I've been trying to do the same with the money I've made from writing. Because don't get me wrong, like I say, I'm enjoying it, but obviously there's no real security in it. I mean, if my next book bombs, it could all end tomorrow. So I've been trying to squirrel away a little bit here. I mean, the wife's still working, so that's a good thing. But like you say, you've got to be careful, haven't you? I mean, no one knows what tomorrow brings.
Yeah, definitely. So this is probably a really cliche question, but yeah, where do you get your ideas from?
He says, yeah, I do get asked that a lot. He says, well, like I say, a lot of my novels, they're loosely like detective novels. I mean, I tried writing straight detective novels, but there's not a massive market for them, to be honest. So I use a lot of like the police procedural stuff I've picked up, and then pretty much what he says, don't tell anyone this, but what I tend to do is like I go down to like the local library, and I've got a load of reference books. What I do is I try and find like a legend or like a story, you know, like let's use a silly example, like the Loch Ness Monster, let's say. And what I do is I then sort of go like, right, okay, so I've got this creature, this legend, whatever. How could I write like a detective story based around that? And I sort of work backwards from there, and that's how I end up with it. It seems to be working so far. I mean, sometimes it's easier than others. So he says, oh, I tell you what, he says, hold on a minute. And he like ducks back into the shop. He comes out with like one of these sort of like obviously like freshly printed copies of like this novel, like Blood Moon. It has like a big red moon on the front of it, silver like gilt writing, and he's like, oh, there you go. Here's a copy. He says, oh, if I could get your number, I mean, obviously wouldn't be appropriate when I was your therapist, but if I could, now I'm not. If I could get your number, I'd love to keep in touch. I'd love to know what you think of the book.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I give him my number.
Yeah, he like takes your number, and he swaps his details with you. He's like, yeah, obviously I've not really got the time at the minute. You know, I've got to get back in there. I can always see my agent like looking daggers at me. He's like, so I've got to get back in there. He's like, but yeah, I'd love to like go for a coffee or something, or like, you know, just catch up and find out how you're doing.
Yeah, me too. That sounds like a great idea.
He says, well, I tell you what, like I say, I pretty much like work my own hours now because I'm like working from home. Just just give me a call when you're free, and we'll sort something out. We'll meet up at like a cafe or something, and we'll sit down. We'll have a good long chat. I'd really love that.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Um,
He says no pressure. I'm
yeah.
sure you're busy with your own stuff, but like I say, when you're free, just give us a call.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I give him my number and like,
Yeah,
yeah.
swap details.
So yeah, I'll be sure to flick you a message when I'm free. Get,
He's like, yeah,
don't know how to.
keep it simple. And like you've seen that like his mobile phones like some like crappy like Nokia like 3310 or something. It's like a well old
Yeah.
phone. He's like, don't put anything too complicated. He's like, I'm not really good with these things to be honest. But yeah, just like drop us a call or something, and we'll sort something out.
Yeah, you might get along with a friend of mine who doesn't get along with technology, but yeah. Unfortunately, I gotta like head out. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I've got to
nice
get back
seeing
in.
you.
Yeah,
And,
he like shakes your hand, and he like pats you on the shoulder, and he's like, yeah, you take care of yourself, Adrian. I'll look forward to like catching up soon. And he says, oh, he says, by the way, you don't have to rush to read the book or whatever, but if you do get any ideas or any like feedback, let me know. And he's like, I'll catch you later, Adrian. And he heads back inside, and you hear him sort of say through the window, you can hear him be like, sorry about that, folks. Just an old friend. Right now, where were we? And people start like asking him questions, and he gets back to the sign-in and like chatting to people.
okay. All right. So I kind of like turn around and like continue on my way, and I'm like, that was weird.
Okay, so we're going to cut to like the very end of the evening now with Seth and Adrian meeting up. So you've got a bit of time to like discuss what you're up to, make any other plans if you wish. So over to you guys. You're both back at like the backup haven. You're sort of settling down for the evening. You've got a bit of time to discuss things, make plans, whatever, like 5-10 minutes worth, and then we'll close off. So over to you guys.
Hey, Seth.
Hi.
Yeah. Did anything interesting happen to you?
Not particularly, I guess. No. I was working on the murder case. It'll take some more time. Unfortunately, there's complications. There always is, I guess. But yeah.
Interesting. Well, I didn't find out much, but I did find out that Finn's crew has been heading out for the past few days and not telling Amanda what they were doing.
That seems weird, given that they explicitly took her in.
Yeah.
Do we know where they are?
No, I have no idea where they are. Apparently they wouldn't say anything to Amanda, but I have asked her to keep in contact with me, so yeah, hopefully something comes of that.
Yeah, now I really want to know what they're up to.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's either going to be something heinous or like stamp collection. It's one of the two. Always is.
Yeah. They both cries for help. Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea because, like, apparently it has something violent that they've been doing because Finn's been covered in blood.
Okay.
But I don't know. I couldn't think of any like newsworthy acts of violence that I'd seen covered.
Yeah. So at least we know that if it's people blood that she's covered in, then they're picking off the transients and other unfortunates. If it doesn't make it into the news, that is.
Yeah, it's probably true.
But if it's not people blood, then yeah, who knows? Yeah. Okay. Well, if we don't know where they are, it's mighty difficult maybe to track them if they've gone through the trouble of actively remaining hidden. So that probably merits a long-term sort of surveillance thing, because when we can pick one of them up, we can try and trace it back. Eventually, they will come and talk to Amanda, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point. What do you think we should do from this point on?
I think I'm going to be a bit busy for a little while looking into this police business. And there's some
Okay.
there's a lot more of it than I was expecting, but anyway, there's a bunch there to do, so I think I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, as am I.
I guess let's just take the opportunity when it comes to look into Finn's business now, because we have other things going.
Yeah.
If and when they show up again, let's see what we can do at that point. But yeah. Okay. Well, at least they're not actively being hostile towards Amanda, so we still have that thing.
Yeah,
we're still good.
That's good. Yeah, Amanda seems to be in like relatively good standing with the group. However, they don't seem to trust her with information yet.
There's probably a hazing coming up for her of some kind.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine what that, well, some sort of hazing or initiation thing. Yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, me either. I hope it doesn't become a problem, but yeah, I guess we'll figure it out when it happens. Okay, so yeah, yeah, let's keep at this and see where we end up.
Okay, so
Alrighty.
we're going to wrap the session up there. You guys both get 2 XP for the session. Thank you very much for playing. I'm happy to chat for a bit, but I'm going to end the recording here.